What's up, everybody? Good morning and happy Wednesday. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. Got your Google and Alexa home devices, the app, and video stream also up and rolling on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. But appreciate you making us a part of your starts on this Wednesday morning. Making a turn Wednesday. Stock reports are due. Whose stock is rising and whose stock is falling right now. You can start to hit us up with some text. If you did your homework, you can turn it in right now if you'd like to. Hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. What do we got? What else do we got on the game plan here for us this morning? We got Badger basketball back in action tonight. Also Marquette in action as well. But it was kind of a crazy night in college hoops because you had number 1 and number 2 going down. Number 1, Purdue, going down against Nebraska. And then Houston going down against Iowa State. So kind of a crazy night in college basketball last night there. But right now, when you look at Big Ten standings, Wisconsin right there at the top, 3-0 in conference play, thanks to Nebraska taking down Purdue, and then Purdue also lost a little bit earlier here too. But Wisconsin's sitting there at 3-0. Can they go to 4-0 in conference play after tonight? They take on Ohio State, 7:30. That game. Also Marquette's. Remember, Wisconsin ranked 15th now. Marquette now ranked number 11. They're in action tonight, going up against Butler. Marquette 2-2 in conference play. So we got some hoops to talk about, some college hoops to talk about. We'll hit that up. Hey, speaking of the Badgers here quickly, Badger football. I know yesterday we were talking a little bit about the transfer portal with RJ Cardinal, and it sounds like the Badgers got a big hit in the transfer portal yesterday. They land a linebacker from USC, Tackett Curtis. He was one of the looking at. I was reading a little bit from Rivals.com. John McNamara, even in Wisconsin, made arguably its biggest transfer portal splash with this commitment. He's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. He's a former 4-star prospect coming out of Louisiana. He was originally a top target for the Badgers in the 2023 recruiting class. He was the number 3 inside linebacker. He chose initially USC over the likes of Ohio State and Wisconsin. So now he entered the transfer portal, and Wisconsin gets him in the transfer portal. A lot of Badger people pumped up about this this kid coming over to Wisconsin. Sure seems like Luke Fickell is really transforming this defense now. It has really revamped its linebacker room when you add Curtis to the team now, because Wisconsin's, I mean, they picked up a few other inside linebackers through the transfer portal. Thomas from Arkansas, Galvin from Northern Iowa, Cheeks from North Carolina. So, yeah, Wisconsin really trying to revamp that defense over there. And I think for a lot of Badgers fans, you're probably happy to hear that Wisconsin is trying to revamp their defense based off of maybe how they played this previous season. So Luke Fickell and his coaching staff hitting it hard in the transfer portal this year. So we'll hit that up. We'll talk a little bit. I know they made some other moves too in the transfer portal, but yeah, this kid coming from USC has a lot of people in Badgerland excited and talking about him, especially too. He got 3 years of eligibility left with Curtis too. So we'll hit that up. We'll talk a little green and gold as the Packers will return to practice later today, their first practice as they get set to take on the Dallas Cowboys Sunday. So we'll get our first injury report after practice, who's going to be practicing, who's not going to be practicing. It'll give us a first glimpse of everything right now, but don't take it too much to heart. You know, if a guy's missing time or anything like that. Remember, Elton Jenkins missed the first couple days of practice last week, and he still played. So, but it'll give us a good gauge right away, good reading, if you will, on who could potentially be available for the game on Sunday. But we'll talk some football and take a look at that game as we inch closer and closer to the postseason here. Is it starting to kind of creep in right now? Starting to get that. But one new coach firing from yesterday. That was Mike Vrabel getting let go by the Titans. Kind of surprising. Now there was some chit chat, some talk about could it actually happen? Would that be one of the more surprising ones out there? It's kind of up in the air, but it became official yesterday. So now you got all the rumors and the talks out there. If it's going to be, could Vrabel go over to the Patriots now? Go back over there where he spent a majority part of his playing career. Could he replace Bill Belichick over there? So, but haven't not a whole lot of other words regarding the Patriots opening. I know there was some talk out there about the Bears. There's no talk. There's no scheduled stuff there. And I was reading some stuff from some reporters saying this isn't kind of normal because in the past, they've if they were going to keep the coach, they would have already had their end of the year presser or anything like that. So they're kind of wondering, is something potentially in the works over there in Badger or in Bear Country with their coaching situation. So, but we'll keep you posted in case anything does happen to come down the wire here. Also, we'll do another edition of the Business of Sports brought to you by Security Financial. We'll hit that up coming up at about 8:05 here this morning. So we'll hit that up 8:05. I wish I could talk some baseball too. I've been waiting for something to come down the wire with this hot stove season, and it's been kind of quiet. I should say kind of quiet. It's really quiet so far. I mean, you've got, I think, some writers and some content makers kind of trying to scramble here and find some stuff. Although, I mean, Corbin Burns, MLB.com, they had their MLB Network ranked their top 10 starting pitchers right now. Corbin Burns came in at number 2. So they're kind of doing that list right now, maybe to fill some of the void going on out there. But other than that, pretty darn quiet in the baseball world. So, but yeah, last year Corbin was ranked number 1, in case anybody's wondering on that. If you pay attention to any sort of poll that out there. So, Bucks will be in action tomorrow, so we'll hit that game up. Let's take a look at their matchup against the Boston Celtics over there. So, but let's get things going here this morning on this Wednesday morning. Playoff week here. We'll continue to talk a little postseason here. By the way, really quick note. Speaking of the postseason, okay. I know our pro football pickup challenge for the regular season is over with. However, we do have some more pick'em challenges up for the postseason, for the NFL postseason. So all you gotta do is just head to our website, sportstalk1051.com, make your picks. We're gonna start to do some custom weekly picks over there. So this week, it's straight up playoff football. We're gonna customize it to whatever games we want. We may even throw in predictions where you think so and so is gonna go, coach hiring, anything like that. We're gonna have some fun with this. So I need you to go make your picks, okay? Before Saturday, obviously, but just giving you a little bit of a heads up. We're going to start doing that every week now. Okay, every week. It's available at our website, sportstalk1051.com. Again, all you have to do is just click on that win tab when you go over there and start making your picks right now. You can do it right now if you're confident in some of your picks over there. Okay, so. But again, let's get things rolling here this morning. We'll talk some playoff football here. Packers, Cowboys. Kind of talk a little bit more about that. We may take a look at all the other games. Taking a look at the schedule over here too. Hit up a bunch of those games, but obviously we're paying attention to that one that's going to be in Dallas, right? Where that's the main one we'll be paying attention to over there. So let's take our first break, and then we'll get things humming, get things rolling here. Talk a little football to warm you up here. Packers will be back at practice today. Let's talk a little bit more green and gold after these quick words. New year, but still those same aches and pains. Do something about it this time. Make your appointment with Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Start living a pain-free and healthy life. That way, when summer rolls around, you'll be able to enjoy those outdoor activities pain-free. Get started now by visiting cvosm.com to schedule your appointment. Dr. Crow and the entire team at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine is dedicated to providing you with the care you need to get back to living your life pain free. Again, just visit cvosm.com for more details and to schedule your appointments. All right. So let's chat a little football here this morning. I was thinking about this, and I get that the Packers season is not over with. You got the second season, right? The postseason starting here, and just kind of reflecting a little bit on this season and thinking about all the highs and the lows and the ups and downs. Kind of, it was a wave, right? It was a wave of emotions, to quote Ron Burgundy from Anchorman, in a glass case of emotion there. But when you look back at this regular season here, and again, I know they're in the postseason now, and they're not done yet. Be awesome if they could pick up a win on Sunday. Be really awesome if they could do that. But when you look at this regular season, since now you've got awards that are going to, like MVPs and rookies of the year and coach of the year and all that sort of stuff, right? And those are based off of regular season performances. What, or I should say, who, if we did it like for a Packer themed one or a Packer related one, who this year for the Packers would get your MVP award, your team MVP? So Packers team MVP. Who would be your rookie of the year for the Packers? That one would be kind of interesting for me to see where the votes go. I think I know where the majority, maybe a slight majority, would go to. I don't want to tip my I think it's on the offensive side, if you catch my drift. But maybe give me two, or just stay to one. But who would be your Packers rookie of the year? Like if we were giving team awards, I know some teams do that. I know like Pittsburgh, their team MVP was TJ Watt for the fourth straight year and such, and some teams do this. But if we were to do it for the Packers, for ourselves, who would be that team MVP? Who would be that rookie of the year? Who would be like the offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year? Obviously, we can't do coach of the year unless you want to do like assistant coach of the year, which that might be kind of fun to kind of take a look at that. Or what was the best storyline? Maybe if we added one, kind of have a little fun with this. What was the best story to come out of this team in the regular season? Now, obviously, the things would change if they perhaps win some games in the postseason coming up here. But if we're looking at it just from the regular season, okay? When we're looking at it just off of the regular season, what are some of the things that really stand out to you when you kind of look back at that, when you kind of reflect on this season? And part of me why I was thinking about this yesterday, was I am so glad. Again, respect the heck out of what he did on the field during his time in Green Bay. Respect it, appreciate it, love it. A lot of great memories. One of my favorite players on the field. But I am so glad we don't have to be talking about the quarterback with the Jets and off the field stuff again. You know why? Because we're preparing for a postseason game. We're preparing for a postseason. I'm glad we don't have to have that where LaFleur has to answer questions about it. Teammates have to answer questions about it. And that's one thing. I'm looking back at this season and I'm like, we talked football. It was mostly about football. Stuff that was going on on the field, once in a while was like, oh, there's some locker room stuff, Rasul Douglas or Jair Alexander or whatever, but it was related to the football team. It was football stuff, things going on at 1265 Lombardi Avenue. Because we know the quarterback, formerly known as, or I should say still known as Aaron Rodgers. I was trying to be cute there. Quarterback known as Aaron Rodgers was on Pat yesterday. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to dive into it or anything like that. But he's talking to a point again. And I'm just like, we get to talk about the postseason. We get to talk about football this year. And it's such a nice breath of fresh air. Again, appreciate the HE double hockey sticks for what the guy did on the field for the green and gold for how many years. A lot of great memories and such. But it's nice just to have to worry and talk about football. So when we look back at this season, what are some of the other things that kind of maybe stand out to you the most? And who would win your MVP, your offensive, or your rookie of the year, or anything like that? I mean, for me, I'm going to start with the rookie of the year on this one, and I think, again, I'm my pick. I think is going to go along with the majority here, but I think you can legitimately make an argument for some other players on this thing if you like. But I'm going to go with Jayden Reed. I'm going to go with Jayden Reed on my pick for the Packers Rookie of the Year. Right now, we've mentioned it how many times, but right now, this looks like a draft class that Goody hit on. Now they're just in their first years, right? We know they're just in their first years, but they're setting the bar pretty darn high in their first year, aren't they? They're setting it pretty high here with what they've been able to accomplish, with what they have been able to show on the field. Jayden Reed setting some rookie receiving records for the Packers, passing records that were held by Sterling Sharp. Okay. It's been a long time, and we've had some really good wide receivers since Sterling Sharp. Now, a lot of those receivers, they were kind of down on the pecking order because Green Bay always had a good crop, always at the top, right? So they kind of had to wait their turn to go through their Jordy, Devontae, et cetera, et cetera. But Jayden Reed, how about this for a little bit of a nugget to come at you here too? He has the most targets in the NFL since Week 10 without dropping a pass. This guy looks like he's the real deal. And I know there's been a lot of comparisons now lately. You've got all the analytics people out there kind of throwing out comparisons to, how he did his rookie year to. I saw one from like Deebo Samuel and Harvin. Remember Percy Harvin over there, and kind of finding some similar numbers here. Yeah, here's where some rookie season comps. I saw this on Twitter the other day. Like Deebo Samuel, DJ Moore, who's with the Bears right now, Percy Harvin, you had Jayden Reed, guys who also have a little bit of rushing yards to them, receiving yards on there. Deebo Samuel, his rookie year, 802 yards receiving, 159 yards rushing. Jayden Reed, 793 yards receiving, 119 rushing. Jayden, though, more touchdowns than those guys. So that doesn't mean Jayden Reed's going to be the next Deebo Samuel, Percy Harvin, or anything like that. But it kind of gives you a comparison of just how well he has been doing so far this season for a rookie. And to me, if I were to pick a rookie of the year for the green and gold, I got to go Jayden Reed. I was excited about him when he first came aboard, when the Packers drafted him. I wanted to see Matt LaFleur utilize him in multiple different ways. different packages, sweeps, handing the ball off, screens. He's a guy that had a lot of experience. When he was first drafted, a lot of people figured, okay, typical slot receiver, kind of maybe like a Randall Cobb role. But he had a lot of experience playing on the outside over at Michigan State. And he's been used in a bunch of different ways. And I think we got a glimpse of something that could be pretty special for this guy's career. You want to throw in a Dontavian Wicks. You could throw in a Dontavian Wicks if you want, maybe down the stretch here. Those tight ends. I know Luke Musgrave season, missed some few games with that lacerated kidney. Tucker Kraft really, kind of took off to replace him there on the defensive side. You want to go Carl Brooks, who had 4 sacks. Lucas Van Ness also had 4 sacks. Carrington Valentine looks like maybe a future long-term starter over there too. So you've got some other options. But for me, I think if I had to pick the rookie of the year for the Pack, I got to go Jayden Reed. Yards after catch of his 793 yards, by the way. Of his 793 yards receiving, 335 of those yards after the catch. The yak over there, 64 catches for an average of 12.4. 94 targets this year, second most on the team. Romeo Doubs, 96. Could Jayden Reed be the next awesome Packers receiver? Maybe. Sure setting the bar pretty darn high. Sure start setting it pretty high right now. The defensive player of the year. If we kind of did, I'm going all across the board here with some of mine because I think, defensive player of the year, when you look at it, if you had to pick one, who would you go for defensive player? Rashawn? Probably, maybe Rashawn Gary because of the sacks there. Kenny Clark, though. I think Kenny Clark, that guy, I think is quietly having a solid season. We know Kenny Clark. Packers fans know Kenny Clark. But I think when you kind of look at some of the numbers that he's put together this year, and you kind of look at what he has done so far on the field this year, it may surprise you. 7.5 sacks. 7.5 sacks for Kenny Clark. Okay, third most on the team behind Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. From his position, from his role, 7.5 sacks. Pretty darn good for Kenny Clark. Would he get some consideration over there? Is it Rashawn 9 sacks? Preston Smith, I think, has been solid this year. I would love Preston Smith to be back next year. When you talk about some veterans that could be cap casualties, we are assuming Bakhtiari is going to be one of them. There's been some talk to be Aaron Jones over there too. Preston Smith has been a guy that has been talked about as well. I'd like him back, though. I don't know about you, but I'd like him back. But Kenny Clark set career highs in sacks this year with 7.5. 7.5. His previous high was 6 back in 2019 and 2018. Tackles 44. That's about average. 16 quarterback hits too for Kenny Clark, the most in his career. So maybe Kenny Clark kind of gets the award of like the overlooked or the underappreciated sort of thing there, because I think Kenny Clark quietly had a very, very good season that maybe a lot of people didn't recognize or didn't know. He put up some career highs in a lot of categories. Tied for the most for losses in his career. Back again to 2019, he had 9. Tied for the most passes defense, forced fumbles, tied for the most in his career too. I mean, we could go down this line. Played in every single game too. Every single game. Kenny Clark throughout his career, and I know there's been some talk about whether the Packers, this is from fans mostly, and maybe it's mostly on the socials, but I've seen some people saying, oh, should Green Bay move on from Kenny Clark and that and open up some space there? And, I feel like Kenny Clark has been a guy that has been asked to do a bunch of stuff that maybe doesn't really put him in the greatest position to be in like a dominant defensive lineman. I think he's a really good defensive lineman. Is he an Aaron Donald level? Is he a Chris Jones level with the Chiefs? No, probably not. But I think he's also been a guy that has been put into different roles, put into different scenarios, situations where he's asked to, hey, take one for the team here. We don't got a better option over here. Can you play that role? He's been moved around as nose tackle, on an end at a 3-4 defense the last couple years here. Kind of almost remember when BJ Raji was like that a little bit when they started to move him around. It's like, okay, well, where is the best role? Is it a nose tackle? Then they put him at a 3-4 DN, and they kind of moved him back around trying to find that best role for him. Maybe got a little cute at sometimes. But I think this year, Kenny Clark, statistically, was his best season. So maybe if he doesn't get your defensive player of the year, does he get your maybe most improved, or who would be your most improved, or maybe over or underappreciated type award over there? Defense kind of, you can go a couple different ways. Maybe it's Quay Walker because of tackles. I don't know. I think if I had to put a vote out there, though, it might be Kenny or Rashawn. I might have to my vote between those two. And it's neither one of those guys have been like, Rashawn Gary, I know for some people would like to see a little bit more dominant, more of a playmaker, on the level of like a TJ Watt and such. We'll see if he gets to that level. But offensive player of the year, I might still go with Jordan Love, and I think my MVP's got to be Jordan Love. I think my team MVP for Green Bay has got to be Jordan Love. When I look at, the offense, you've gotten a bunch of different receivers stepping up, playing some big roles. Seemed like, maybe every week or every other couple weeks, it was a different wide receiver having themselves a game. And yet you got Jordan Love, who has thrown for over 30 touchdowns, over 4,000 yards, doesn't have one receiver that's over 1,000 yards. Just the final 2 weeks of the regular season had a receiver go over 100 yards. Running back, not over 1,000 yards rushing. Aaron Jones missing 6 games, was it, this year? We thought, okay, that's got to be the guy this year to really kind of shoulder the load. And Jordan Love stepped it up, especially, November on. I think the MVP's got to be Love. And I think that's the offensive player of the year here too, in my opinion. What other team awards should we handle? Most improved? I think for me, I might have to go Walker, left tackle. Because at the beginning of the season, I know I wasn't the only one. I think we all assumed, okay, Josh Nijman's probably going to be the future starting left tackle, right? I mean, last year got a lot of playing time. Then all of a sudden, Walker, he's starting to get some reps, and he's starting to play really well in preseason and training camp and all that. And it's like, okay, now they're going back and forth, splitting some reps, and now Walker's the main guy over there. That's sure, and he has played incredibly well this season, especially in the second half here. And he looks like he's the future left. So I think for my most improved, I've got to go with him. I got to go with him because that, to me, has answered the question of your future left tackle. Maybe takes that off the board, in your upcoming draft in the first couple of rounds. You still want some depth over there because Bakhtiari's out and, maybe Josh Nijman moves on. Who is your backup tackle over there? With Zach Tom holding on to the right side, Walker over the left. Still going to be a need coming in the draft, but maybe not as high as a need that we initially thought maybe a couple months ago. So I think I'd throw him on there most improved. Can maybe look at a couple of other players. on this thing. Maybe, yeah, maybe some people would go with Myers at center and such, but I think that's how I'd roll. Or maybe even Jordan Love. Probably a lot of people would go with Jordan Love over there. So, what do we got here? Let's go through some Brian MVP. Jordan Love, hands down. Stats are amazing. And up there with the top QBs, rookie of the year would be Jaden Reed. Imagine if healthy all year. Standout would be wide receiver play. Bull Melton on the up. Everyone contributed. Big Worm, MVP. Love, rookie of the year. Reed, defensive player of the year. Old Man Smith, coach of the year. Jason Vrabel. Solid pick. Yeah, if we did assistant coach of the year, Jason Vrabel would be my pick. Um, you could go with maybe tight ends over there, but given the wide receiving and tight ends were extremely young too, but with Watson with his injuries, missing a lot of time, you had Romeo on there as kind of the veteran guy, but to see these receivers and to see the growth of a guy like a Bo Melton and guys like Dontavian Wicks, a fifth rounder, contributing and being a go-to guy, Jason Vrabel would be 100% my pick. I hope no other team's like, hey, I want to come over be our offensive coordinator. Dave saying Kenny Clark is the best. Number 7, Walker could be special. G-Man, DK, you sound good today. Voice is getting a little bit better. Stock rising is Dave from Ray's Place. And Bucky will win tonight 74-67. And Bucky will win the NCAA championship in football. The Pack is back, and Aaron Jones will rush for a $145 and 3 tuds on Sunday. Pack win. Go, Pack, go. Who else should we be giving some love that maybe we didn't give enough love to? Who else? We're handing out some end of the regular season awards here, if you will. We can make up some stuff too. I mean, for crying out loud, we can make up an award if we want to. Who do you think has been maybe the most underappreciated player, overlooked player on this team? Who do you think that's been? I think you could make a case for a guy like Preston Smith, Big Worms defensive player of the year guy. I think you could put him in there. I think you could put Kenny Clark on that list too. Who else would you put on there? Would it be maybe a Jonathan Owens at safety? Somebody else? Could easily probably pick an offensive lineman because some of those guys, the really good ones, they don't get talked a lot about. And that's because they're doing their job and they're probably doing it pretty darn well. So who would you pick as maybe the most underappreciated or the guy that, deserves a little bit more love? The player that deserves a little bit more love, a little bit more attention, some praise. The unsung hero, if you will. Hit me up with some text, all right? We got to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes to already wrap up the first hour after these quick words. Instead of making goals in a new year for yourself and setting yourself up for disappointment because you won't stick with them, how about setting a goal for your home? Whenever we begin the new year, we always try to come up with goals to better ourselves. But for 2024, let's better our homes as well. And that starts with updating the flooring in your home with Wisconsin's premier flooring store. That's Carpet City Flooring Center right here in Eau Claire. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of you listening right now can think of at least a space or more where you don't even remember the last time that floor was updated or replaced. Think about all the spills that's kind of festered underneath there. Yeah, it's time to upgrade your floors and improve your home. From vinyl planks, tile, carpet, and more, Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire has all the different options you could hope for in the flooring business. And they will match or beat the competition as well if you happen to find better deal elsewhere. Top it all off, they have the best team to work with in the area. So this year, better yourself and your home with a new floor from our good friends over there at Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. Going through some texts here really quick. We got a couple of Kenny Clark picks as a guy who maybe flew under the radar, underappreciated, unsung hero. I think that's what we'll call it. Who was the unsung hero, unsung player for the Pack this year? One coach I was thinking about during the break too was Tom Clements. Now I know he's up there in age, and I don't know how long he's going to be sticking around in Green Bay and such. But the work that he's done with Love and such. We know Aaron Rodgers was a big fan of his, and maybe that was part of the reason he was brought back to Green Bay. But I think you can make a case he's done a pretty darn good job with Love here too. But we've got Greg saying for underappreciated, we'll call him the unsung player of the year this year. He's going to go with Preston Smith. For coaches, we got a couple more for this. Eric saying the Packers wide receivers coach. That would be Jason Vrabel over there. A couple others have mentioned him as well. John Dunn is the Packers tight end coach. In case Adam, you were wondering, Adam put the Packers tight end coach as the assistant coach of the year for the Packers. That would be John Dunn. Jeremy, he's got to give some love to Tom Clements. Yes, LaFleur should get credit, but Clements worked his magic with Rodgers. Now it looks like he worked the same magic with Love. Player-wise, I think the tackles on the O-line could be Nijman Walker or Tom. They rotated at times and didn't miss a beat. Yash Nijman, Walker, or Tom. Tom pretty much held down that right tackle spot the majority of the year over there, and Walker's been getting more time over at left tackle. It sure seems like he's probably the leading guy to get that starting job for heading into next year, assuming Bakhtiari is going to be on the move, which I think a lot of us would expect at this point. Ben is saying Aaron Jones as an unsung player for this year, saying, I know he missed a lot of time, but when he has been on, you can tell the offense has been a different type of offense. He is a guy that is still a focal part of this offense, and when he's out there, it is a completely different feel. That's an interesting pick. That's a good pick too. When he is out there, he's obviously a completely different style running back than A.J. Dillon or whether it's Patrick Taylor or something like that. He is a focal point of that offense. He can do a bunch of different things, running game, passing game, and such. Notice in that game, too, against the Bears, they lined up running backs at that wide receiver spot a lot, trying to create some mismatches and such. But I think that's a solid pick, too, for maybe an unsung type of hero player there. Aaron Jones, even though he did miss 6 games, it is clearly evident how important he still is for this for this roster. So good pick there. I like that one. Keep it coming though, okay? We'll get back to these a little bit later on. Also, don't forget stock risers, stock reports. They're going to be due in under an hour from now. So whose stock is rising and whose stock is falling. And you can pick outside of the Wisconsin sports world too. If there's somewhere else or somebody else that you'd like to pick, let us know. Okay, hit us up with the text there. Coming up next hour, we'll talk some hoops. We got college hoops, Badgers and Marquette. In action tonight, number 15, Wisconsin taking on Ohio State. Marquette, number 11, Marquette taking on Butler. Had some upsets last night. Both the number 1 and 2 teams in the country going down. Purdue losing to Nebraska. Iowa State taking down Houston. Should also note, too, last night I know it was a busy night on the prep scene for some local basketball for boys and girls. Boys basketball, Memorial taking down Eau Claire North. Other teams, Eau Claire, Manual Lutheran, Altoona, McDonald Central, Rice Lake, Levistrom, Bloomer, and Arcadia. Just a few teams from the boys' side to win. Girls, I know McDonald Central, Regis, Bloomer, Fall Creek, Elk Mound, Owen Withy, Arcadia, and Rice Lake all picked up wins. And then we had the big hockey matchup between a couple of ranked teams. Number 2, Chippewa Falls, took down number 5, Eau Claire Memorial, 4-2 in some prep hockey last night as well. And I know we got some blue gold sports action on the calendar for tonight. But we'll get to that hoops chat coming up in the next hour here. We'll finish up the first hour. Good morning, Morgs.
Hey, what's the word of the day today, Kasper?
I don't know.
You gotta think hard. Think hard.
Yeah.
What's the word of the year so far? If you do, some people pick like a
word of the year.
Yeah, word of the year, like a word that's going to direct their choices and carry them through a new year. If you had to pick a word for 2024, what would it be?
Probably can't say it on the air.
So far,
Yeah.
Seems to be most people's experience. The wheels are off early and often on 2024 for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So we were sitting in the bleachers in Elk Mound. I had a basketball game this week for Siggy, and I was wondering, as a sports guy, do you have any interest in or have you ever reffed?
I have reffed, and I appreciate the heck out of what they do.
Right.
And I don't want to do it.
No, why not?
Parents. I'll just call it out.
It's
parents.
true. Yeah. We were definitely made privy to that, and it's the adults that should have the flags thrown more so than any of the kids. There's some definite questionable behavior by the adults in bleachers.
Yep.
But so then I'm going to ask this to people that do ref, and I know a guy that loves to ref because he likes kids, basketball, the game. Just like you said, parents are kind of the deterrent from it. But if you are a ref, why? What do you like about it? What do you enjoy doing? And what makes that a goal for somebody? Like, for example, would you like to ref at the national level, like for the NFL? Because, you hear the big boos of 70,000 people come down on you if you make a call you don't like.
I know we got a listener, Plain T, who's a ref. So Plain T, if you want to text us and let us know.
I'm just curious. And I, as a parent, I appreciate the refs out there. And even if the calls don't go your way, it's an important part of the game. And I think a lot of times, particularly if the calls don't go your way, it teaches you more about sports, life, the game, and playing and being an athlete than anything else.
Because I had to ref when I was a sports director at a Y.
Yeah.
So to do like 4K flag football or kindergarten flag football or third grade basketball, and to see how some parents to break up a fight between two coaches in kindergarten flag football.
Yeah.
That was what kind of like
perspective
ruined it for me.
Right. Would you taking it out of that arena then, would you take it to the large stage? Like, would you like to do NFL football, something on that, super big stage platform exposure, making significant calls that really impact the direction potentially not just of a game, but of, a team's future?
If I could tune out the talking heads, I could.
Okay.
But I would get down the wire of looking up what people are saying about me on Twitter.
Would it be too personal? Would you take it too personal?
Yes.
So you're not somebody that can just turn off the comment thread. You have to look.
Yeah.
Don't do it to yourself, man.
I can't help it.
You have to start helping it. You're going to be miserable.
I've read self-help books and they don't help.
Here's the thing. Social media comment threads a lot of times are just a big sewage pipeline.
Oh, I know.
And you're going to end up coming out the other end like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank. You're going to be dirty. You should just let yourself be free.
That's why I'm already gray.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Give yourself a break from it.
With the pepper on there.
But do you have a favorite ref? Because you have favorite teams, you have favorite players, but the refs are an important part of the game. So think about that.
He doesn't ref anymore, but Gene Steratore was the best.
Why?
I just thought first of all, he would ref an NFL game, and the next day he's reffing D1 college basketball.
So busy and hustle and getting out there and doing his job.
He's the analyst now on NBC.
You can do 2 different games.
CBS.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
It's
to go
enough
D1
to know
basketball and then to a Packers-Cowboys game. Yeah, that's why he was my favorite.
Especially at that elite level.
Yep.
Well, as a parent, I have to say to all the refs that are running the courts, and we do appreciate it, and to anybody that thinks they need to throw bad behavior from the bleachers.
Exactly.
Come on.
Second hour kicking off right now on this Wednesday morning, January 10th. Appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. Coming up at the back this hour, we'll do some stock reports. Play along with us. Turn in your homework assignments, boys and girls. Whose stock is rising and whose stock is falling? You can text us on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line, 715-830-1912. In about an hour from now, we've got another edition of The Business of Sports brought to you by Security Financial Bank. Perfect timing, too, because Miami Heat head coach Eric Spoelstra got PAID paid a record 8-year, $120 million deal from the Miami Heat. So we'll take a look at that deal from the numbers that we know coming up for our Business of Sports edition segment. Let's do some sports nuggets of the day, though, to kick off this second hour. Not a ton, but in 1950, Ben Hogan appeared for the first time in a golf tournament since an auto accident a year earlier. He tied Slammin' Sammy Snead in the Los Angeles Open. However, Hogan lost in a playoff. 1962, the NFL entered into a single network agreement with CBS for telecasting all regular season games for $4.65 million annually. 1963, the Chicago Cubs became the first baseball club to hire an athletic director, Robert Whitlow. 1990, the NCAA approved a random drug testing program among college football players and harsh penalties for drug use. 1995, NHL owners rejected the players' unrestricted free agency proposal, which was 1 year at 32, 5 years at 31, and countered with 3 years at 32 and 3 at 31. Those are just some of your sports nuggets of the day for this Wednesday, January 10th. We mentioned it at the beginning of the hour here, but Badger football, I know we were talking a little bit about the transfer portal and Badger football with RJ Cardinal yesterday morning, but yesterday, Badgers picking up another big-time player in the transfer portal. A lot of love for some of the rankings out there in terms of what the Badgers have been doing so far in the transfer portal, and they added more. Tackett Curtis, the linebacker from USC, formerly was a 4-star prospect coming out of Louisiana, and he was a top target for the Badgers in the 2023 recruiting class. And he chose initially USC over Wisconsin and Ohio State. However, now the Badgers got him, as he announced he will be going to the Badgers after entering the transfer portal after 1 year with USC. So the Badger football team really transforming their defense with a lot of transfer portal kids coming in. He joins a linebacker group that you got Yaheem Thomas from Arkansas, Galvin from Northern Iowa, Sebastian Cheeks from North Carolina over there too. So Badgers really trying to transform that defense right now through the transfer portal. But I like it because Tackett has 3 years left of eligibility, so it's not going to be a 1-year thing. Well, hopefully not. I mean, I guess he could move on after the year two, but 3 years of eligibility left for Curtis over there. So speaking of the Badgers, we got some hoops. Badger hoops, number 15 Wisconsin Badgers in action tonight, going up against Ohio State. The Badgers, 3-0 in conference play. That leads number 1, their sole possession of first place in the Big Ten right now. So they can increase that lead over Luke's Gophers right now, who are 3-1 in conference play. Yeah.
I'm honestly shocked by what's going on. I still don't think they're going to be a contender for the Big Ten title, but dang, this team has pulled something together.
Then we've got Marquette, 11th ranked Marquette, also in action tonight. They're 2-2 conference play. They're going up against Butler, and it was kind of a crazy night in college hoops last night because both 1 and 2 went down. Purdue falling to Nebraska, and then Iowa State defeating Houston. Houston was a lone undefeated team, so that's out of there now too. So both 1 and 2 falling last night. Now you look at Purdue; they've got a couple of Big Ten losses on their record. against Nebraska and Northwestern over there too. So their 2 losses all coming from conference play so far this year. But do you feel? I feel like we said this last year, maybe for the last couple of years here. But do you feel like in college basketball right now, there's not that one dominant or maybe 2 really dominant teams?
Like the Gonzaga Houston year, or sorry, the Gonzaga Baylor year from like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Purdue was kind of shaping up that way, and I don't think I could say that now. There's not an obvious one. I think there are the usual suspects. Purdue and Houston and Kansas, UConn, they're all the number ones in the bracketology, and I think they're all going to be.
Arizona's kind of really fallen down a little bit here too.
So like there's some that are going to be up there, but I don't know. Like this is not going to be, those years we'd have these quote unquote Duke Invitational.
Yeah,
they were such heavy favorites to win, which is ironic because it seemed like those times would be the years they'd lose in like the round of in like the Sweet 16. No, there's not.
And you don't even have those early Calipari, Kentucky teams here too, like where they're just undefeated, but then they fall a little short.
Right. There's nothing like that this year. It's not full chaos either. Like I said, no. I think you're still going to have several teams cycle through near the top. I don't think Purdue and Houston fall that much. Kansas is probably going to be in line for number 1, but let's see what the rest of the week brings. I don't know. Purdue may be number 1 by default after this week. I'm not saying we're going to get that many upsets, but you could see.
Looking at Kansas, they got number 9 Oklahoma coming up here in a few days after their game against UCF tonight. So, possibly. Then I feel like UConn is just quietly just sitting there, even though they just won the national championship. I feel like UConn is still maybe getting a little overlooked from a general fan.
I think so too. The Nebraska's maybe making a little something here.
I think they're going to move up in the ranking, or they're going to jump in the top 25 now.
Yeah,
they're 13-3, and with that win, they're going to jump in there.
Yeah, right now on bracketology, they are one of the first 4 out, but that was published yesterday morning. I would have to imagine they may be one of the first 4 in right now.
Yep.
Northwestern is one of the last 4 in right now, if that's any indication of the quality amongst the rest of the Big Ten. Minnesota's, by the way, not on the radar yet. If they get like another, I don't want to just say straight up another win. It sounds like, oh, great, cool. Beat like the worst team that's left out. No, if they get another win or 2, I think they might even start getting on the radar a bit. I'm not predicting them for the tournament. They're still probably an NIT team, but you keep winning and you're in the Big Ten. That means something. We could see a lot of Big Ten teams right now. We're at 6 in the tournament and in the predictions behind the SEC and Big 12 at 8. But I think that could fluctuate higher.
I think Wisconsin, when I look at their schedule coming up here, has a really good chance to kind of increase that lead in conference play here. Not to discredit any of these teams because we've seen it how many times. You got Ohio State tonight. Northwestern, which is always tricky, right? But at least it's at the Kohl Center coming up this weekend. At Penn State, Indiana, your Gophers, the 23rd, a rematch against Michigan State. That ends January. Then you got at Nebraska in February. Then Purdue, February 4th. But I feel like there's a really good chance here for Wisconsin to rack up some more wins in this Big Ten conference play. They should at least.
What's the trap game?
Everybody's going to say Northwestern, right?
Well, of course.
But that's at the Kohl Center. If that was at Northwestern, I might say it'd be that one.
Remind me, the Gopher game is at
the Barn.
Okay.
That one's at the Barn.
See, that's starting to feel like the trap game now. Like I would have presumed before the season, it'll be nothing. I don't know anymore. I'm picking Wisconsin to win that game, of course, but that I'd be a little cautious Greg Gard's going to be cautious, of course, but extra so for the Gophs in that one. They're, by the way, Wisconsin now number 3 seed in bracketology.
Moving on up. Well, they moved up 6 spots this week. That was like, wow, all right, top 15.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, deservedly so. You keep winning, keep playing as well as they are. Is Tyler Wall a little bit of a revelation this year? And a little bit, because we know what he's done, but that, he's seems to be one of the better producers this year.
He is, but I think it all starts with AJ Storr. AJ Storr doing his thing. He's the straw that stirs the drink. RJ and I were kind of talking a little bit about this yesterday. everything. He's the guy that makes everybody else better. It takes so much off the pressures of a guy like a Tyler Wall or a Chucky Hepburn, where they don't have to be that guy. AJ Storr is that guy, and he's helping out so many other different guys on this team, including a Tyler Wall. We thought Tyler Wall was supposed to be the guy last year, right? He was supposed to be the go-to guy.
Right.
It didn't have to be that this year. You got AJ Storr there, and you got a freshman named Mr. Blackwell coming off the bench and producing too. It's having a trickle-down effect. Stephen Kroll's having a little bit better of a year. Still some inconsistency with those guys, but AJ Storr is pretty darn consistent, and that's what's making this team hum.
Mm-hmm. It's chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good sign for this team.
Yep.
A really good sign.
So I asked RJ too, does this team remind him of any other teams? Because it just feels so different with this Badger team. And kind of struggled to think of one. He said maybe like the Alondo Tucker and Brian Butch team. And I thought Tucker too because of AJ Storr's athleticism. But even then, it was still a little bit different. Like this is, to me, kind of a unique makeup of this Badger team. Like you don't have, I would say Stephen Kroll's kind of there, but not on a consistent. But, Bo Ryan's teams always seem to have a big man that would always shoot from the outside. Frank Kaminsky's, Brian Butch's, John Lure, whatever, the list goes on and on. You'd always have a guy like a Josh Gosser or Ben Bras, from the outside there. And you don't really have that, I feel like, with this makeup of this team.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. It's something different, something unique.
Right. And does that make you feel more confident as a Badgers fan that you're watching a different, yet seemingly, it's a very short sample size, even this far into the season, very short sample size of chemistry? Does that make you feel more confident on the ability of this team to make a tournament run, not necessarily to the Final Four, but to do something beyond what probably, I know as a 3 seed, the expectation would be, well, you're probably in a Sweet 16 team minimum. I mean, by definition, you are. But do you feel like this team can go further than a lot of other Badger teams at this point in the season?
It's so hard because of the tournament. It's so hard to project that. I still feel like this is a Sweet 16 team, and maybe that's their max right now. But that's also further than they've been in a while too. So
yeah,
it almost feels like one of those Bo Ryan teams where they went to the Sweet 16 every single year. You know what I mean? Like It was like Sweet 16, Sweet 16. And that frustrated, I think, a lot of Badgers fans because it seemed like the peak was Elite Eight. And then finally they got to that Final Four with, Frank and Decker and Nigel Hayes and Bronson and Jackson and Ben Brust and Gosser and those teams.
Mm-hmm.
But it always felt like the peak was Sweet 16 with the occasional Elite Eight in those early 2000s.
Yeah.
I feel like that this team right now, and maybe, I don't know, I want to see this team match up against Purdue and Illinois. We're going to have to wait a little bit, but I'm really curious to see this team go up against Purdue.
Yes.
Because, yes, they've got some good wins, but they got dominated by Arizona. I mean, they went 2-3 in that stretch with Marquette and Michigan State. You kind of wonder, does that Michigan State win look better or worse? I mean, does it matter? At that point, it was like, oh, that's a big win going into Michigan State, which it was. But Michigan State's not playing that well right now. But I want to see if Wisconsin can beat Purdue, take one of these teams against Purdue, then maybe an Elite Eight.
Yeah. I think that's the ceiling for me. I can't see them as a Final Four. I know last year was all sorts of possibilities, but then remember 2 years ago was the Blue Bloods. So I think we're more likely to see last year than 2 years ago on a regular basis. So Wisconsin getting to the Final Four would not be like a cataclysmic shock. Like, again, to use my favorite team, the Gophers getting to the Final Four, what might as well start buying lottery tickets at this point. But the Badgers, I could maybe sort of kind of see. But yeah, I think you're right. Like the Elite Eight's the realistic high end on this team. But I could see Sweet 16. And I don't know that this is a classic Badger 5-12 upset team either. I don't know that. I think they're built better to avoid having some 12 seed shoot threes like crazy and knock them out in the first round.
Do you have the bracketology
Yes.
up? Where's Marquette?
They are also a 3 seed.
Okay.
Down 1.
So Wisconsin and Marquette, both 3s.
Correct. Marquette would play High Point right now. Wisconsin would play Morehead State.
Because I think you were the one that asked this a few weeks ago. Still got more trust in Marquette to make a deeper run?
I'm starting to change my mind.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, proof's in the performance, and Wisconsin's performing well, and Marquette isn't always.
Interesting.
I mean, there's enough season left that is definitely an in the moment assessment.
Right.
I want to see what another 2 months, month and 3/4, if you will, of conference play does, because a lot of teams can galvanize themselves. I think Marquette can definitely turn that around. I mean, they're not in a bad spot, but they can become a sublime team. They were that. They're not that right now. Same with Wisconsin. I mean, there might be some flaws, but I don't know where those flaws necessarily are. What's the big exploitation on Wisconsin? I don't really see it right now. Like the massive, okay, you do this one thing, take this one guy out of the game, they're done.
I think if you take AJ Storr out of the game, they might be done.
Really?
I think he's that much of a guy because Chucky Hepburn's not consistent. The other guys aren't consistent. If you had some consistency, at least I'm not trying to compare these two teams, but like when you had Frank and you had Decker and you had Nigel Hayes and you had Bronson, you had a couple other options there. I got to see the consistency from some of these veterans. If they could show it more night in and night out, I'd feel a little better. Just AJ Storr, he commands so much attention and he can do so many different things, the athleticism, that I think if he's missing a lot of time, you might see a similar Badger team to what we saw last year.
Interesting. All right. Something to note.
I don't know the consistency part of it. Crawl's gotten better this year, but he ain't anywhere near like the lore of Badger Big Ten men, right?
Right.
He's not up there with the John Lures or the Butches or the Frank the Tanks or those guys. Who am I missing?
Who's the Australian?
You think of Kirk Penny, the guard?
Yeah. Or is it Kirk Penny, or there's someone else I'm thinking of? I don't know.
I know you got Steetsma from Randolph. Remember Greg over there too?
Yeah.
You're not thinking Andrew Bogut, the Bucks player, are you? The big man?
No.
Okay.
But there's some. No, it wasn't Kirk Penny. It was someone else I'm thinking of. But there was someone from like the mid 2000s or something. Well, Kirk Penny was 6'5". Well, he is 6'5". He didn't shrink.
That ain't a big.
But he was a guard. But yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those guys.
Yep. All right, let's take a quick break here. We'll be back with some more hoops talk as well. Bucks will be back in action tomorrow against the Celtics in a big-time matchup. Looking for that caffeine kick to get you going each morning and throughout the day? Well, that's easy. You're looking for Cabin Coffee in Altoona. Whether you are in the mood for coffee, tea, or an iced energy drink, Cabin Coffee has something to help you get going in the mornings and throughout the days. Cabin Coffee also has a breakfast and lunch menu with a wide range of options for you to choose from to help keep you going throughout your day. Don't settle for low quality drinks and food to fill your energy void. Go for the fresh and the high quality stuff at Cabin Coffee in Altoona because you and your taste buds deserve better. Forgot to mention too, for our Business of Sports segment that we got coming up in about 35 minutes, we also are going to touch on the Tiger Woods Nike split
Oh, yeah.
over there too.
So
So
we'll get to more deep dive, but your first blush, your feelings on that when you saw the news.
well, I mean, I
don't
guess
wanna
it
say
should be
like I'm mocking that too, because that was so they are so associated.
right. That's where I was trying to think of like a question. Like, could you name another athlete so associated with another brand? I mean, Jordan, Nike, then it developed into the Jordan brand, with his own logo. That would be up there. I mean, I remember as a kid, I liked Reebok because Shaq endorsed Reebok. But I mean, Tiger was like, okay, Tiger Nike. I can't tell you how many Tiger Nike hats I had growing up. I still got one that I wear sometimes. You know what I mean? So I want to know with the TW brand, is that moving on somewhere else? Or, I mean, Tiger could almost create his own like Jordan, right?
Good, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Tiger joined Jumpman.
Wow.
That would almost seem like the perfect pairing, wouldn't it?
Yes.
With Jordan over there? I'm surprised that hasn't even happened
Or
yet.
does he go like Uniqlo? One of those that's really become an up and comer in the
Mhm.
past few years. Like Federer's with Uniqlo, and so that wouldn't completely shock me.
Yeah. I don't know. But again, he's at the end of his career too, but I almost feel like he could, if he wanted just to have his own brand out there like Jordan or even pair up with Jordan. I mean, that's still Jordan hasn't played in a long time and it's still an iconic brand and
Yeah.
still, I mean, for crying out loud, they just won a national championship with Michigan,
Yeah.
So I don't know, but we're gonna go over some of the numbers, just how much he made from Nike.
Got paid.
Yep. PAID paid over there. So but that's got to be a perfect Business of Sports one over there too.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll get into it there, but how Nike Golf has just kind of like it's nothing now. And where it used to be. Like when I was a kid, like that was what you had to wear, or that was the golf ball you had to use.
Isn't it anymore?
Nope.
It's fascinating.
Yep. So bottom it out here. So we don't have a Bucks game tonight. They've got their big game tomorrow at home against the Boston Celtics over there. But when you look at, your Timberwolves got a win last night, 113-92 over the Orlando Magic.
It's getting a little rough there for not last night's game, but they're having some, running into a tougher part of the schedule. They got a lot of road games this month.
Mhm.
That's part of it. But, well, they went on the road and they were demolishing Orlando last night. We were up by like 30 or something, like in the second quarter.
Yeah.
Like, it was ugly.
Mm-hmm. So they're still holding on to a lead over Oklahoma City, it looks like, in the Western Conference standings. The one thing, first of all, I'll ask you this question. This is from Mark. I might know your answer. You're a homer. But Mark's saying, dawned on me last night watching SportsCenter, are Luke's T-Wolves the best team in the NBA? That's not being talked about.
Well, okay, so the qualifiers on this, and I'm going to answer the question. The qualifiers on this, number one, there's probably a fair amount of like mainstream sports media that I'm not necessarily following, so I don't entirely know for sure. And I will say, I've said his name a bunch of times. I'll bring it up again. Probably one of the most cited NBA-ish types is going to be Bill Simmons. And he talks about the Wolves a lot, but that's one guy. I'm going to guess, based on the broad picture, I think they and Oklahoma City probably are. But I say probably because I think the success of Anthony Edwards and the success of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and then the other guys on the teams too, what Chet Holmgren's done, what Jalen Williams has done with the Thunder, Gobert having a great season, Towns turning around this season. Gosh, we haven't really heard much from Jaden McDaniels yet. It's a really good sign. I know because of the injury, but still, they're not completely under the radar. So I'll say yes, kind of because the others are going to get more pub because they're bigger markets.
Well, your three most popular teams in the Western Conference are either holding on to the last two playoff spots or out of the postseason. Right now.
You're going to hear a ton of Lakers, Warriors, Suns talk. And yes, they get the headlines because of who they are, and especially really in the Suns' case, because of who's on the team.
Yeah, who's on the team, and because they're sucking. So it's like, what's wrong with these guys?
Yes.
That's,
Yeah, I don't think the top is being ignored. I think it also helps that there are some breakout stars on these teams. I actually think the Nuggets and the Heat, interestingly, are I would almost put them in the same category of a little bit underrated this season. You're not hearing too much about them, and I know the Nuggets have struggled a little bit of late. Heat are kind of quietly putting together a pretty good season again. But yeah, I'd say the Wolves are amongst several teams that could be getting more attention, but I also know that that's the way sports media works.
It's easier to talk about a team that's not doing well than a team that is doing well.
Just throw out LeBron and let the clicks and comments come in.
LeBron, and he's on a team that stinks. There you go. It's total heaven talk right there.
Totally. Like at this point, basically, you can be ESPN and having your headlines on the right-hand side of the page. You could put the word LeBron, period.
Mm-hmm.
People would click it.
Yep.
It's like, what does it mean? I mean, yeah, I get it. I understand why we talk about that. There are metrics that show that people pay more attention to that stuff. Fine. It'll make more sense when the playoffs come around and look, if the Wolves are good enough, the Thunder are good enough, the Heat are good enough, they'll take care of business when time comes around. Maybe we'll get again, I'm kind of stealing myself for the possibility of a Bucks Timberwolves NBA Finals where the dominant storyline is, oh my gosh, what a disaster for the NBA. Like, really? Y'all aren't going to pay attention to the games? Are just going to complain because it's Milwaukee, Minnesota? It's going to happen if that matchup happens. But look, I'm glad with the way the team's performing, and if they keep performing in this well, I think it'll take care of itself. Mm-hmm. And Anthony Edwards will help too. He's such a star that's drawing more attention. Like Giannis drew more attention to Milwaukee, and Milwaukee's still been underappreciated this entire time because it's Milwaukee. It's not Boston. It's not New York. But it sure helps having Giannis on the Bucks. Otherwise, the Bucks would be completely anonymous in the NBA.
Right. So I'm looking at these standings, and I know we've been talking about the last couple of days about should you be a little concerned with the Bucks, how they're trending right now, and Giannis's comments about having to have more pride and kind of saying we all have to be better. They're sitting at 25-12, 3.5 back from Boston for first, so they're in second place in the Eastern Conference. Minnesota's 26-10, so I mean, if you put Milwaukee in there, they'd still be up there. Are we still over analyzing everything with Milwaukee because of the high expectations, or the fact that Giannis is even coming out and saying, hey, we got to have better pride. We got to be better. The equipment manager's got to be better washing our clothes. Everybody's got to be better at this. Should there be a little bit of concern going on right now?
You saw that tweet from the Bucks and the equipment, the extra clean jersey quality. I think there should be. Yes, the expectations were set really high. Now some of that is, again, fan expectations, and one of my broken records is it doesn't always matter what the fans think. It's what's going on within the team. Fans expect to look. On the show we were talking about, are the Bucks co-favorites to win the title this year? Understandably so. And right now, I don't know if you would necessarily call them one of the top three teams of the Eastern Conference. To say nothing of who they go up against in the Western Conference. And some of it is concern over Dame Lillard. Some of it is concern over Adrian Griffin. I think there is reason to be concerned for this. Thankfully, we haven't heard anyone start to say, well, I wonder if Giannis is going to maybe decide he wants out early this day. We haven't heard that yet. I'm also bracing myself for that to happen at some point.
I do feel like if it is a one and done, as in postseason, but out in the first round again this year, it's also one and done for Adrian Griffin.
Definitely.
I feel like that.
I'm seeing another round of should Adrian Griffin be fired tweets starting to go around now, which the way the Bucks have performed of late, I still think it's really, really, really early in a coaching tenure to do that. But here we go again.
It reminds me of Ray Rhodes so much.
That's probably what this is going to be. Where like in that 99 season where the Packers, I still remember, you probably remember too, that last day of the regular season.
The point differential stuff. Yes.
Right.
I just watched the video of that again the other day.
Yeah, that was
Berman going back
NFL Prime. I was thinking that. I was watching NFL Prime Time. I think it was this week's episode. And I was reminded of that. That was probably one of my favorite episodes of NFL Prime Time. The Sunday night one from week 17 of the 99 season, where like minute by minute, it's like, okay, you got to score. You got to score. You got to score. And okay, so how different is it if I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here. How different is the 1999 season and Ray Rhodes' legacy if they score a little bit more? Well, they make the playoffs.
Well, it wasn't even that because they still needed Dallas to lose, and Dallas won.
That's right. But if they make the playoffs this year, do you think they could have done a little? I mean, those playoffs were a little. I mean, I know the Rams barely beat Tampa Bay in the NFC Championship game, but you think the Packers could have gone on a mini run and saved Ray Rhodes' job?
Oh, man, that's something.
Or was he in such bad shape that would have been that one?
I think Ron Wolf was still adamant about moving on from him. Like, even if they would have made the postseason, he would have moved on from him.
Yeah.
I feel like that. But then maybe he would have been, quote, stuck with him, even if he had bad feelings if they won a couple postseason games. Because the optics then doesn't look that great, does it?
No.
So.
No. I mean, they would have probably had to make the conference championship game. I mean, if they had actually made it to the Georgia Dome to play the Titans in the Super Bowl, I ponder that. Well, then Ray Rhodes' job would have been saved at that point. You're not firing him after going to the Super Bowl, but that team was not that good. They were recycling at that point. So to parallel that to the Bucs, like they're not going to be doing a point differential thing in April trying to make the playoffs, but it could be a seeding matter. And like the prospect of like the Bucs being the 3 and the Pacers being the 6. You could see where this suddenly becomes a 4 games to 2
Pacers
loss.
are the new Heat for the Bucs.
Yep.
I mean, I'd be nervous as all get out if it was Bucs Pacers.
Yeah.
In the postseason.
I could totally see that matchup happening. And
the Pacers are going to go in that series with all the confidence in the world that they can knock out the Bucs.
Right, because they performed pretty well against them.
They won all games except for one.
Okay. Well, now this is kind of where I was going with the Ray Rhodes thing. About how far could the Packers have gone and saved Ray Rhodes' job? And then you think about what happened to the Blood. I know they didn't then turn around and become great under Mike Sherman. They had good years, but still. But how do I phrase this? Is it better for the Bucs long term that they lose in the first round or lose early enough to definitively get Adrian Griffin out to get a better coach so they have in better position to win more titles than to go on like a conference finals run this year, lose to the Celtics and say, well, going to run it back next year?
I have no idea.
I know, but you see where I'm going with this. Like this,
the outlier in this whole thing. This is Giannis's pick for coach too, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what we were told. That's what we heard.
I mean, the easy thing would be if Giannis is like, "What did I do?" Okay, well, now you got your get out of jail free card and do whatever you want. And I know there are a lot of insinuations about, oh, Giannis seems to be upset with his own pick. Do we know that? I mean, I know we've tried to do Giannis whisperer. The closest thing we now have with Aaron Rodgers not in the state of what did he mean? Well, there's a fair amount of that with Giannis, but we got to let this all play out further. I still think this team is going to gel more later on. Adrian Griffin is going to be a lightning rod right now. Let's see what that's like in March and April and May.
Yes,
it's a long time to go. There's still the trade deadline to come. There's still talk of who could the Bucs acquire. I was listening to Doc Rivers on the Simmons pod where he was talking about one of the biggest problems with the team right now is that like Dame Lillard is going and doing things that the other guys would do, and they're like, and as he sees as a coach, he's like, new guy comes in, starts doing these things, and the folks who know are like, Why are you doing this? Why are you like on defense, like defensive rotations and stuff like that? That stuff needs to get fixed. Probably will, but they also probably need like a good backup point guard. Someone like that, someone off the bench who's
They need
more
some
reliable.
perimeter D.
Yeah.
I know Jay Crowder coming back is going to improve D, but you need some more wing D, perimeter D, guard D,
right
back there.
Right.
So,
and let's give them time to figure that out. If they whiff, okay, then I think the panic is more legitimate. I would tamp it down still somewhere. I understand where it's coming from, but give this time. There is more to get this corrected for this season. All of that being said, I think the odds are better that Adrian Griffin is gone. I'll put it this way: within 2 years, I think the odds are way better that he's gone than he's still with the team.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a quick break, and we got stock reports coming up here. So if you haven't turned yours in, you can do so by hitting us up with a quick text. We'll do that, and then business of sports. We'll hit up both Eric Spoelstra's contract and T-Dub, Tiger Woods, ending his relationship with Nike. One of the many great things about Wisconsin is that we have our grills ready to go 24/7, 365, sometimes 366 days of the year. We're always looking to fire up some brats and steaks. Had some brats last night for dinner. I mean, now if it's too cold, they got those indoor fancy brat grills you can get, which means any day is a perfect day to make a visit to Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire. Steaks and burgers, brats, snacks, snack sticks, and jerky that have so many different flavor options, you'll never run out of different ones to try. And now, freeze-dried candy over there at Mike's. So, are you hungry for the best cuts and best flavor in town? Go ahead and visit Mike's Star Market on the west side of Eau Claire today. West side. All right, ready to do some stock reports?
Let's.
Stock risers. Go for it.
Captain Comeback. Figaro. Oh my gosh. It worked. He got it. He got the national championship. Jim Harbaugh is my stock riser.
All right.
He did it.
You think he's gone?
I don't. He is one of the toughest people to read. Like in kind of a pleasant way. Like in a way, watching as much Jim Harbaugh as I've done, just even on like the game, I'm like, I should watch more of his press conferences. This just seems so weird, but not like uncomfortably weird. It's just weird. So I don't know. I don't think so, but it would not surprise me. I'm going to say it's about 56-44 he stays.
I think he's gone. I think he's gone. I think he's gone if he gets the job he wants.
What do you think is the job he wants?
Chargers or Raiders. I think if they're willing to pony up and pay him and give him some say, I think he's gone.
I kind of like to see Antonio Pierce get the Raiders job. Chargers-wise, sure. Actually, that could be fun.
Yeah.
And I think the Chargers, again, given that this is the team that actually has a term for failure named after the team, I would like to see the Chargers have someone like Harbaugh, who I think could bring them some sustained success. If he's going to go NFL, that's the matchup I want to see. And yeah, I think he could do something with the Raiders, but I like where they're going with the AP thing. I think, and that's one where you might want to factor in the fan base a little bit too. But for the Chargers, yes, do it.
Yeah.
If Harbaugh wants to leave.
Mm-hmm. I feel like he does. I feel like if he truly believes that what he said before, that he has unfinished business in the NFL, time's running out to get back there and try to finish that business.
And that's it.
So
that's it. And
Chargers, if they're interested in him, I mean, he's got the quarterback already in place to build around. So, and he's familiar with the West Coast there a little bit too.
Yes.
So
very true. Very true. I totally see it.
My stock riser, it's pretty darn simple too. Pack is back, baby.
Yeah.
Come on now. Future's looking pretty darn good, isn't it?
No, wait.
Pretty darn good right now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Based on what the people were saying about 2 weeks ago. Now, we do still need to clean house, right? Matt LaFleur needs to go. Brian Gutekunst still needs to go. Mark Murphy needs to resign in shame. Joe Barry needs to be hung up somewhere. All of this still needs to happen, right?
The Joe Barry one probably for a lot of people still
probably
out there. You want to talk about probably something that won't save his job, but
yeah. But I know I was thinking that seeing how this all ended, like, well, you know what? If you want to hear a decidedly opposite take to all the fans that want a clean house, go listen to the Mina Kimes podcast, the latest edition, and listen to the praise especially from Dominique Foxworth and also from Mina Kimes. The little bit in the latest episode, it's towards the end. Let's just say they think the Pack is in really, really good shape going forward.
Mm-hmm. As a Vikings fan, Luke, how annoyed are you?
Hardcore annoyed. You guys, I again, I don't want to do like the statement for years, but you guys are set. You did it again. I mean, I don't want to say you did it again like you got another Hall of Fame quarterback. That's to be determined. But in terms of stability,
I think that's the biggest thing right there is the stability.
Right.
Yep.
I'm longing for that. I don't know how that's going to happen over with my team. Sure as heck looks like your team's got it. And praise to Brian Gutekunst for doing that. I mean, that was a good choice. So now
twice now in my life, I've seen my favorite team. I mean, technically 3, but I don't remember it. But if you think about it, too, with the Favre thing, I mean, they traded a first-round pick for Favre. Ron Wolf was going with his gut, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ted Thompson drafted Rodgers when he already had Favre. Didn't have to. A lot of people didn't like him.
Mm-hmm.
Brian did it with Love.
With the asterisk of lots to go.
Yep. When are we going to stop being annoyed now as Packer fans when they maybe get a quarterback when they feel like they already got their quarterback on the roster?
Never.
Never.
This will happen in 14 years.
When am I going to learn personally too? Not to not have to do another GIF thing that Luke is going to create for everybody out there.
Totally. Whatever the equivalent of that is in 2038 or so, I'm on it.
Yeah.
I'll be ready. It's going to happen again because that's what we do as fans. We don't necessarily learn. Well, and also, what were the odds that the Packers would be able to do this? Right now, it looks like maybe they actually are. And I'm going to keep saying maybe because also the Packers have not yet won the Super Bowl with Jordan Love.
Right.
He is not being talked about as he has put up MVP numbers for the second half of the season. Fact. If he does that for the whole season, Jordan Love is getting MVP talk right now. Let's see what the next few years bring. Also, does the rest of the team get there is a scenario, I'm not saying this is likely, but you could end up with like a Justin Herbert sort of situation. Really good quarterback, great offense, like either a sucky defense or the coaching goes a little sideways and the ceiling is never met and they never even make a conference champion. Like that stuff could happen. But Love on his own, he's got it.
Peter Schrager this morning, Good Morning Football, and he tweeted this out. Packers wide receivers and tight ends aren't just, quote, young. They're one of the youngest to ever suit up for an NFL game, and they've been awesome. And he puts a list down of the age. Dontavian Wicks, 22. Romeo Dobbs, 23. Tucker Kraft, 23. Luke Musgrave, 23. Jane Reed, 23. Christian Watson's the oldest at 24. Ian Rappaport retweeting that, also saying one of the youngest teams to ever make the postseason. One of 4 teams with no Pro Bowlers. Quite a year for Matt LaFleur and his coaching staff.
There was another stat from that pod, and I'm blanking on exactly. So, I'll tell people, go find the latest Mina Kimes podcast. There's going to be another one later this week with Bill Barnwell, so look for the Dominic Foxworth one. And listen to the stat on the age of the receivers.
Mm-hmm.
It's one you probably already know, but for anyone listening, go listen. If you want some reassurance that the national folks like what they see from the Packers, give it a listen. If you're skeptical on what's going on in Green Bay, you may be less skeptical after that.
Yeah, I'm feeling. We're just playing with house money now this weekend.
Yep.
So
I think that's exactly what Mina Kimes said. Like, their Packer fans have house money right now. I think that's the quote.
Nice.
Yeah.
Also, would still love a win against the Cowboys though too.
Yeah, that's true,
that's just even more.
So if they lose on Sunday, are we all firing, clearing house again?
I don't. Even before that Bears game, a lot of fans were just saying, "Hey, whatever happens on Sunday, successful season." Well, they won, and now they're in a postseason. So I would assume that's the same thing. If they were that feeling against the Bears, I would assume that's going to be the same thing against the Cowboys.
Yeah, we'll
I think
see.
the one thing is people just don't want an absolute blowout, an embarrassing thing.
Right. And that would change a little bit. But then again, maybe that finally once and for all gets rid of Joe Barry, though. You can top 10 defense against points.
Are you going through Ryan Wood's tweets or something?
It was either Ryan. It might have been Ryan Wood. I'm trying to remember who I saw, but yeah. So keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, top 10 in points, but elsewhere like quarterback rating and not that good.
It's terrible.
So yeah. Stockfaller.
New Orleans Saints.
This is the example when you say the salary cap sort of stuff and keep pushing it down too. And I don't know if that's where you're going, but they're like $70-some million over the cap. Mickey Loomis is just like doesn't care.
You know what? That's not where I was going with it, but okay, now that they're even worse. I was gonna say that after that whole end of the game thing.
Yeah.
Which, okay, we all know, like, just going rogue.
I watched it in the stadium on Sunday. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, of course, Jameis Winston is part of this. If you were to name 5 players who would be involved with that sort of like insubordination, Jameis Winston, and he's not like a bad guy, but you would figure he'd be part of this.
Well, Jimmy Graham said that's the best teammate he's ever had.
I know, right. So, like,
bet you Aaron Rodgers is pissed now.
And good for the team being a team. I'm glad they're not like all arguing with each other, but also you do have a coach who ultimately makes the final call. But that's also bad on Dennis Allen that they're not listening to you. All that bad. And then, like you said, how are you going to replace a lot of these guys?
Mm-hmm.
I know that they stayed competitive for a long time, but they didn't get a Super Bowl out of it. That's the risk you run. And now the bill comes due. So I would not say the Saints are in the best spot going into next year for multiple.
No, not at all.
No.
My stockfaller is the Titans right now. I mean, there was some talk about could Vrabel be a surprise fire and that. The optics of this, though, when you have your owner saying, "Yeah, we thought about looking at trading, but then looking at the rules and that, it just was pretty much it sounds like they're lazy, that they didn't try to look for a trade to, trade Vrabel to a team because of it would have been a little time consuming and there was a lot of, holes to jump through. That's not a good look. That's not a good look when maybe you could have gotten a draft pick or something like that in return. I don't know where that would have been, but what did you expect from this Titans team this year anyways, too?
Not too much.
So, Titans right now, it's no Derrick Henry. He's up there in age. He's a free agent. I don't know about DeAndre Hopkins' future. That AFC South, I guess, is, with the rise of Houston and, Indy, Jacksonville, I know missed this year, but I would expect them to still be up there. I think it might be a while before the Titans are back up at the top.
They feel very mid.
Yeah.
Like that's the peak on this team.
Yep.
Well, hey, there's a new stadium coming, so they got that to look forward to.
Right. You think Vrabel's going to go to New England, be the new head coach?
It seems too obvious, so I'm going to say no. But no, I don't think he is. I think he'll be a coach somewhere else. I don't know where that is, but I'm no.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it'd be good, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
I wonder, does that push Belichick out the door now that
Mike
Vrabel is available?
Mike Vrabel is the one who pushed him out the door. Well, I mean, maybe. I think Belichick goes.
Yeah.
I was just watching his press conference. Said you could, as much as we can again try to interpret Belichick. Gosh, there seemed to be a lot of emotion there. I can't believe that he's going to. All right, next season, here we go.
Yeah,
I think this is it.
It is also, as Justice said Monday, very typical of Belichick to have a 7:00 in the morning presser too.
Of course,
on a Monday morning.
Of course,
perfect. I don't think this coaching off season's over with yet in terms of moves and now. So
I think there's at least one more ouster to go. I wonder if it's going to be Dennis Allen eventually.
There's some talk because it's so quiet in Chicago. Could they still make a move?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe I don't think they do. I don't think they do.
I don't either. All right, business of sports coming up after these quick news updates. Third and final hour, kick it off right now. Appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in. If it's on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, the app, Google and Alexa home devices, video stream, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Hopefully, you're all off to a fantastic start. We got another hour, well, I guess 55 minutes to go here. Want to get back to a little green and gold chat here. During the break, I was listening to a clip from, again, Good Morning Football, and Sean O'Hara, former player, had an interesting thought on Matt LaFleur in his postseason game. Something I never thought of, and I thought it was interesting. I'll play that and kind of get everybody's reaction coming up here, too. So that's coming up in just a little bit, because we've got the Business of Sports brought to you by Security Financial Bank. We're going to hit up a couple of topics here. We've got a big-time contract for a coach in the NBA, and then Tiger Woods and Nike going their separate ways. How much did Tiger Woods actually make from Nike? 27-year relationship, man. 27 years. I'm 37. Do the math. I was 10 when they started that thing. So before we get to that, though, Eric Spoelstra, which anybody who's listened to the program, I think, Luke, you and I both agree, best coach in the NBA right now, or the coach that we would want coaching our team.
Fantasy draft, he's number one.
Yep, exactly. I will be it's still like when I saw how long he's been coaching, I'm like, dang, it's been that long. But yeah, since 2008, he took over the team once Pat Riley stepped down in 2008. It's like been that long already.
Pre-LeBron.
Wow. Yeah, right. Wow. No kidding. But Eric Spoelstra has agreed to an 8-year contract extension worth more than $120 million, the most committed money in North American coaching history, sources told ESPN on Tuesday night. Most committed money. He has won 2 championships. When you think about it, too, it's like, dang, it's been 6 NBA finals. He's reached it 6 times. He's the NBA's second highest paid coach on an annual basis behind Greg Popovich at $19 million. But the length of his deal, or length of Spoelstra's deal, separates him financially from his peers, according to sources. So, worth it? 8 years, $120 million for Mr. Eric Spoelstra. Would you be good with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what, $15 million a year? If I'm doing my math right?
Yeah.
I would take it. He's a large part of he is the prime reason the Heat, and with on the court, not counting Pat Riley, of course, off the court, but he's a prime reason on the court, the prime reason on the court that the Heat have been as competitive for as long as they have. And I still remember when it was when LeBron went over like, Spoelstra's your go. Wow. I mean, no shade on LeBron. That was more other people's comments.
Mm-hmm.
And Spoelstra's held up. Wow. I would pay him that much money if he were a free agent. If first the Heat had fired him, like other teams that have seemingly stable head coaching situations would probably fire their coach to try to, if they would fire their coach to get Eric Spoelstra. He's that guy.
Yeah.
Greg Popovich is probably right now the Bill Belichick of the NBA right now. It might actually be a pretty decent parallel given how poorly the Spurs are playing.
Yeah.
But after that is, I think Eric Spoelstra is the Mike Tomlin of the NBA.
Yeah.
I probably so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, here we go again. Once again, another playoff run for Tomlin.
And there wasn't that long ago that there was a few weeks ago, like, is this Mike Tomlin's final year? And then there was like some talk, well, could Washington trade for him or something like that? You know?
Which granted, there's been no like Spoelstra out in when was the last time there was speculation on Eric Spoelstra not being Heat coach?
I don't know.
I can't remember that. Going back to, again, like when LeBron James first went there. So we're going back to 2010, maybe 2011 of like, who's really running this team? Since then, no, he's locked in figuratively and now literally.
Remember in the offseason, Monty Williams signed that massive contract with the Detroit Pistons, right?
Yeah.
That was a 6-year, $78.5 million contract that could reach 8 years, $100 million with incentives, more than $13 million per year. At that time, he then became the highest paid coach on an annual basis. Then obviously Popovich got a little bit more money and that sort of stuff. But so you've got some serious dough being shelled out to NBA coaches right now.
Mm-hmm.
Serious dough. I saw this. This was back in November. So this is a couple months old. but this is from Sportico. Sportico, ironically, the business of sports. The highest paid coaches in U.S. sports. Okay?
Mhm.
Now, this is according to them. Any guess on who is number one?
Wow.
Any sport in the U.S. It is in the NFL. I'll give you that. The top two are in the NFL.
It is in the NFL. It's probably a newer or more recently signed contract, I'm going to guess. Does that sync with who it is based on what you know of contract signings and such?
Reportedly, they did have a new contract. That's all I can give you.
Okay. And I gotta run through all the possibilities here, of which there are many. And I'm probably gonna miss like the obvious one.
Yeah, don't overthink it.
Is Andy Reid?
Bill Belichick.
Okay.
$25 million.
Okay.
Now, that's also, remember, because it was a few months ago that there was that report that he did sign an extension or something like that. Remember that? Like,
yeah, vaguely.
There was sort of like, oh, he did sign a massive extension, but it kind of went under the radar sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is probably not going to surprise you when I say it, because you're kind of on the right here. Sean Payton, $18 million, but 25 to 18 million. Then you got Popovich at number 3. Pete Carroll and Sean McVay tied for 4th. The highest paid coach, though, in U.S. sports who doesn't have a championship to his name, number 6, Kyle Shanahan, reported $14 million.
These, relatively speaking, make sense.
Mm-hmm. Then you got Monty Williams, then Mike Tomlin, then John Harbaugh, Nick Saban at 10, $11.8 million.
I'm guessing there are a lot of like 10 after that.
Yes.
Because we're getting pretty close to Craig Counsell territory now. And this makes you wonder how long until baseball guys start to...
Craig Counsell is 33 on here, $8.3 million.
When are we going to get our first $10 million a year baseball manager? It's got to be soon.
You'd think so.
Especially now that Counsell blew everything up, like in a good way. I think they should be paid more, again, relative to the sports.
You want to know who's just slightly more than Craig Counsell?
Is it a hockey guy?
No. Luke Fickell.
Huh. Interesting.
Number 31 on this list, and remember he took a pay cut, is actually Jim Harbaugh. Luke Fickell is 32. Rick Carlisle, Craig Counsell, 33.
Interesting. But I do think Luke Fickell makes a bigger impact on the Badger football team than Craig Counsell does on a baseball team, just because of the nature of what you like. You have to go out and recruit and all. You're kind of your own general manager.
Mm-hmm.
So I get why there's more value put, especially on a college football coach. NFL is because there's high profile. It's the NFL. I get that. Baseball should be higher.
Craig Counsell is the only baseball manager on this list.
Does this also partially explain why it's easier for hockey guys and baseball guys to be fired than football guys and basketball guys, at least in America?
Maybe. Yeah.
Is there less money to worry about having as sunk costs, which I know that doesn't affect college football because, hey, sure, $100 million, we'll pay this guy to not coach for us for 7 years, but that's college football and people are insane there.
Mike Vrabel, newly fired Mike Vrabel, was 17th on this list.
Gosh.
$10.5 million.
My gosh.
Anybody's wondering, Matt LaFleur is not on here.
Because he should be fired.
Trying to think of any other worthy. John Calipari is 26. Mark Stoops, the football coach at Kentucky, makes more than him. Oh boy.
What?
Yeah, $9 million Mark Stoops says on here, and John Calipari is 8.6 per.
Oh, so you can finish 8th in the SEC? Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, now I see why Brett Beal went to the SEC. Right. I mean, if you're going to get paid, sure. If to not even compete, why not? I guess.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So those are some of the numbers from the coaching circles there.
Okay.
But insert Eric Spoelstra in the top there too, because this was back in November.
Yep, very much so. I agree.
Mm-hmm. So the other part of this now, Tiger Woods and Nike, 27 years they've been together, no longer. Now Nike is reportedly they're planning to cut some like $2 billion in costs over the next 3 years. A few years ago they ended their golf line. right? With the clubs and the golf balls and that and such. That was in 2016, closed its golf line. And Tiger, if you've been following golf, or at least Tiger, he's been using TaylorMade and Bridgestone since then. But when you think of Nike golf, I mean, I've always said Tiger, if he didn't have the biggest impact on me as a kid, to like I've always said the line, Tiger made golf cool when I was a kid. I think he made it cool for a lot of kids to start playing golf. And when you thought of Tiger, you thought of Nike. For me, I mean, it's because, you got to have the Nike golf ball then. You got to have a Nike golf ball. You got to have a Nike golf hat now. Got to deck. You had to have the red polo with the Nike swoosh on there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you thought of Tiger, you thought of Nike over there too. He's one of the, Jordan with his Jumpman logo and his brand, easily to me the top two when I think of an athlete attached to a brand.
Yes.
Top two right there. Throughout his 27-year partnership, if you will, how much did he make from Nike? $500 million is what the estimate is over 27 years. Wow. 500 smackaroos. But you know what? I think Nike and the golf department made out okay using Tiger Woods, right?
Yeah.
I think they made out okay.
They're in better shape now, regardless of what's happening now. Well, they are in better shape now than they would have been otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you talk about, I mean, it's kind of like, now I haven't seen the movie, or, I know a little bit about the story, but, the movie that came out, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Shoe, with Jordan in that, a few months ago? Mm-hmm. Nike took a chance on a guy named Jordan, right? It worked out for Nike.
Mm-hmm.
They signed up Tiger pretty darn early in his career, 1996. It worked out pretty good for Nike over there too, right? It worked out pretty good for both parties.
Very much
over there. I was reading a little bit here when Woods showed up to the 1996 Greater Milwaukee Open for his first PGA Tour event as a pro. He told reporters, I guess, hello world. 2 days later, Nike launched a Hello World campaign in which Woods and his father Earl appeared in TV commercials. Nike then created a line of golf apparel and shoes branded with Woods' name and logo.
Do you remember those commercials?
I do.
For some reason, it's not ringing a bell, but maybe if I saw them, it would change my mind.
Woods and Nike renewed their contract 3 times during his player career. He signed a 10-year extension with the apparel giant in 2013, which was worth about $200 million. $200 million.
I'd like to do the 500 million thing and adjust it for inflation to find out how much, like how that changes over time. Like, so how much money did he earn annually? And then in 2024 dollars, what is that? Because it's going to be more, not dramatically more. It's not like figuring out what a $10,000 contract in 1945 is today, but it's probably more like 600 to 700 million.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
In today's dollars.
So this is from golf.com. They said that, I'm reading from here, Forbes keeps a real-time net worth calculator for top athletes in the world. And as of this writing, this is from a couple days ago, it estimates Woods' net worth at $1.1 billion. He's earned just under, this seems low, but just under $121 million in career earnings on the PGA Tour alone, about $41 million more than the next highest on the list, which is Rory McIlroy. And Forbes estimates Woods has earned about $1.8 billion in his pro golf career via winnings, appearance fees, and endorsements. It says here, just kind of scrolling through, while it's impossible to put an exact number on the money Woods has made with his Nike deals, it's safe to say he's earned roughly $500 million through his contracts over the span of their 27-year relationship. Likely more, given the conflicting reports that his compensation from the 8-year deal he signed in 2006 was at least $20 million annually, but potentially as much as $40 million annually. Oh, man.
But he's good enough to deserve it. But again, by sports standards, I always throw that in there because someone would be like, no one deserves $40 million. Yes, true. But by sports standards, yes, he does.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I completely.
He did exactly what an endorser should do for their product.
Right. He endorsed it. He made people want it, and he did well working in the field using the product.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
He won with it. He made kids want to have it. He made adults want to have it. He was an company's dream for an endorser.
In a financial sense, was he the most valuable athlete of the last 25 years?
25 years, I think, probably.
Yeah.
Because that takes Jordan out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Maybe LeBron. I want to know what LeBron would be, but
I mean, LeBron probably more so as time goes along. Tiger Woods obviously less so, especially post 2008 or so, 2009 or so. Yeah, I think he's probably tops. I mean, internationally, then you start to get into the question of I mean, maybe Roger Federer worldwide,
right?
But nationally, United States, I would say so.
I think he's going to be okay with whatever he decides to do next.
For sure.
That TW logo will be somewhere else, whether it's his own or I think a win-win would be tagging up with Jumpman.
Gosh, just picturing that.
I mean, they're friends. If you're Jordan, how have you not already had that discussion? I know Tiger's like 48 in the back end of his career, but even for a couple years.
Yeah. Wow. That would be oh my gosh.
Get Jumpman into the golf game. Jordan loves golf for crying out loud.
Yeah.
You know.
It's fully logical. I think I might want to that might be a good call. Might be a really good call.
I think so. Make it happen.
Let's
and
do
because
it.
you know what's going to happen as soon as those TW logo stuff comes out with the Jumpman logo, stores are going to eat those things up and customers are going to buy them.
How many TW things would you buy?
Oh, I'd get one. I'll tell you right now, I'd get
one.
At least one right now, because I know the price tag is going to be like $40-$50 for a hat, probably.
That's true.
You know, I would need to update my TW hat.
Yeah.
It is very comfortable though, so that's the other thing.
It's made
but I mean, come on, you got TW in the front and the Jumpman on the back.
High quality fabric.
Basketball people are going to want it. Golfers are going to want it. Easily. There's still people that wear, what's the brand? Because I have one. I have a Bigfoot one, but there's a brand, a golf brand there, Wiggle, I think. Could be wrong. But they got like a tiger, a picture of a tiger, and we all know what it's referencing, right?
Waggle?
Waggle, thank you. Because I got the Bigfoot one. They got a tiger one, but we all know what they're referencing.
Yeah.
Without saying his name.
Yeah,
I see people wearing that all the time.
The goat hat?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
It's a goat with tiger stripes. It looks like a Bengal tiger.
Thank you. Yep. I see people wearing that all the time. They don't got to deal with them, but you know exactly what they're referring to.
See implications with that. I mean, for all they know, maybe they think the Cincinnati Bengals are the goats. I don't know. So,
or maybe there's a new breed of goats out there.
I don't know. How do we know it's not Tiger Woods? I don't know. So there's plausible deniability. You can do that stuff. I mean, that's the clever way to do it, obviously.
Yep, definitely. All right. So there you have it. Business and Sports brought to you by Security Financial Bank. Let's take a quick break. Sean O'Hara had this to say this morning about Matt LaFleur in the postseason. I thought it was an interesting point. I'm going to take it another step here. So I'll play that, what he had to say, and we'll discuss. Okay. First, quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. It's that time of year where we may be stuck indoors for a bit, so you need to make sure your pantries, fridge, and freezers are fully stocked, maybe by this weekend too, because it's going to get cold. So how do you do all that while saving some money? Easy. Just shop at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, whether it's stocking the pantry with soups and dried goods or loading up the deep freezer with pizzas and frozen foods. Hy-Vee has the best selection to help you keep you stocked during these winter months. Or if you just need a quick bite to eat, grab something from the food court or deli area as well. And with their Hy-Vee perks, you'll save money at the register and the gas pump. Stock up on your favorite grocery items and save money with Hy-Vee in Eau Claire.
By the way, you mentioned cold. I can't remember. Did you mention in this day in history the 2 conference championship games in state in ~82?
I did not see that.
Well, first off, the catch was the late game, and the early game was the Freezer Bowl. I might watch that later today. Well, just and have it on in the background because the full game's up from the NFL officially online. 9 below temp. What now would be, because the wind chill calculator would be 37 below wind chill.
Ooh.
In Cincinnati, mind you.
Wow.
Imagine if that game were in Lambeau. Now I don't know if it was as how weather patterns. Imagine that game up in Lambeau.
No kidding. Well, they're talking Kansas City might be one of the coldest games.
Yes, that's going to be a really cold one.
See, Miami, this is why you got to take care of business. You could have been playing at home this weekend. Nope, you got to go up to Kansas City and now play where it's going to be almost 80 degrees different.
Super cold. So, of course, the Dolphins are going to win. You know how that
probably
works.
Yeah.
Fine. Are you watching it on Peacock?
Oh, yeah.
Your subscription?
Yeah.
Now, I can't remember. Did you already have a Peacock subscription?
Did.
Okay.
Yes. But even if I did, I'm intrigued with that game and I would sign up to see it. So.
At least you're not like doing it just
because
NFL, yeah. I mean, it's a good enough game to watch.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of probably upset people if it's not close and they signed up to watch it.
Oh boy! And can you imagine all this? No offense to the Swifties, but all of them sign up and then find out, Taylor Swift didn't come to the game.
Yeah,
now they got Peacock subscriptions.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Okay, conspiracy theorist time. Did they put Kansas City on there just because of that?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
2 reasons. Patrick Mahomes, who outside of the Cowboys is the top draw right now. I mean, yeah, you could throw in Aaron Rodgers for like this year or next year, but broadly speaking, he's number 2 or co-1. And Taylor Swift.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. I mean, there are a lot of people that are going to want to sign up for that reason.
Yep.
It's true.
I agree. All right. Speaking of the postseason here, Packers getting set to take on the Cowboys and such. We talked about, youngest roster, young team, gaining experience and that. I'm going to play a clip from Sean O'Hara, former Giant, former offensive lineman. And he was talking about this Packers team going up against the Cowboys. I'll play it, then we'll discuss it. Audio courtesy from Good Morning Football.
I look at it.
So that's just a little bit there. And what I wanted to hit on, and I thought he made an interesting point. If you think about it, when LaFleur got to Green Bay, got the job, instant success, right? First year, NFC Championship, loses to the 49ers. Second year, NFC Championship, loses to Tampa Bay, COVID year. Then, loses to San Francisco in that divisional game, right? Fourth year last year, misses it. Every single year, he's been under this immense pressure as a first-year head coach, play caller, and that to provide a Super Bowl right away, right? You have Aaron Rodgers. That should be the expectation. It's Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. And when we look at this postseason here, and, we said we're playing with house money here. Green Bay's playing with house money. These young guys are gaining this experience. Jordan Love is gaining this experience, such. But with that, too, how much could this postseason benefit the growth of one Matt LaFleur? Because as Sean O'Hara said, he's not coming in there with a lot of pressure. All the pressure's on Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys, which I totally agree with. I totally agree with. But how much, we've talked about this playoff game could be a great experience for these younger guys. But are we kind of ignoring the fact, too, that maybe this will actually help Matt LaFleur in his postseason? He's got postseason games under his belt, but it's always been championship or bust for the first few years of his coaching career.
Oddly so for a new coach. And for the record, I did have the Packers making the dance.
You did, too. I did, too.
Yeah, see, there are a few of us out there that...
Mine was more pure homerism, I'll admit it. So,
Mine was not cynicism. I actually thought fairly highly of this team. I think... to go now outdated Troy Aikman, you're exactly right, Joe. He's seen enough now, but now he's got the offense that he wants.
Exactly.
Doesn't have to go, I don't want to say against his own quarterback, but a very experienced, very talented quarterback. You're going to have to alter your plan if you're a new coach. That's just kind of how it works. And you'd be stupid to just come in and go, well, this is the way I'm going to do it. No, of course not. Well, now he's got the guy that he's been able to mold, that they're working more in simpatico. And I that if it turns out well, now you see the formula. If it doesn't, well, okay, you can work on it a little bit more, and you're not also wasting the talent of a late career future Hall of Famer. That's not there. Again, most people did not expect the Packers to make it, and understandably so, because of the age of the team, turn over a quarterback. And we didn't exactly know what we were going to see from Jordan Love, and thus far, it's looking really good. So, yeah, I think it's good for LaFleur. He does not have, there's not going to be the Cowboy level pressure, like you said, Mike McCarthy, for sure. And trying, again, the biggest headline is he gets to try his own offense in the playoffs, and let's see how that develops.
I totally agree. On that aspect. And, yeah, I think, we've focused so much on how this is benefiting this young roster and benefiting Jordan Love to gain that experience. But I think the side benefit of that is, yes, he's had playoff games and he's won some playoff games and such, but it's a different style that he's doing. And like you said, it's his offense. And now he gets to employ it within the playoffs. And I'm excited that, I'm not picking the Packers to win. I'll admit it right now. I know it's Wednesday. I'm not picking them to win it, but, I think this is something that could benefit this team in the next few years. It doesn't seem like, at least right now, it has that same enthusiasm as maybe like the Lions had last year, going into it. But I also think that's because maybe the Lions are still going to be good next year, I think everybody's assuming. Chicago's got all the draft capital. We're just waiting to see what they're doing at the quarterback position. So maybe I just feel like this division is going to be maybe a little bit more competitive in the next few years, where it's not going to be so top-heavy. Detroit, Green Bay, can Chicago figure it out? I don't know what the plan is for your Vikings at quarterback either. Are they going to bring back Kirk Cousins and that? So, but it's going to be an interesting division, I think, for the next few years.
Yeah, there's not a really bad team. If a team's going to screw it up, it might be Chicago, just because they could make a lot of errors. I can see where Minnesota could end up going that way if a lot of what Adolfo Mensa's doing doesn't work out. There's a path that way, but it's got enough declared good talent on the team that I think their floor is still like a minimum 5-6 wins. You're not going to see a 2-win team in this division anytime soon.
I'm assuming you saw the reports of apparently Minnesota was really trying hard to trade up to get Anthony Richardson in the draft.
Did not.
Yeah, there was I guess they put out a big package to try to get Anthony Richardson in the draft. When you hear that, and the quarterback situation that's going on right now, because Minnesota's 11th in the draft order, I think.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on? Do you think then that they're going to try to move up in that draft and not necessarily get Caleb Williams or Drake May, who may go top 5, but what about a Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, I think it's on the radar. That's for sure. This is not as predictable as use the offsided example of trying to get a first-round wide receiver in Green Bay. There's not like some fundamental opposition in Minnesota to do that. Because your options now are Kirk Cousins or find a quarterback in the draft. You're not going to try to trade for Russell Wilson or something. No, that's not happening. The possibilities of current quarterbacks to be the guy going forward aren't there. So you either have to run it back again with Kirk Cousins, which might be cost prohibitive. As much as by all accounts, he loves living there. I don't know that he's going to provide any new hometown discount. He's going to ask for a good amount of money. And I don't know that the Vikings want to pay that given all the other aspects of the team, facets of the team that they need to pay. I could see them trying to trade up a bit. I don't know that they necessarily look back with regret on Anthony Richardson, but not getting that, but who really knows? We haven't seen that much of Anthony Richardson. I'm still skeptical that he's going to be that great NFL-wise, but we'll see. I think they could find a guy this year without doing a whole haul. They might even be able to wait at 11 and get a guy they want.
Michael Penix Jr. maybe over there.
I mean, I know it'd be easy to say Penix's draft stock was dropping as the second half of that game was rolling along, but also how injured was he really? We only really saw him start holding his ribs towards the end. You wonder how much of that was already there in the third and fourth quarter. I mean, Michigan's defense was brutal. But I mean, did Penix not like fall from maybe a first rounder to a fifth rounder because of that? No. I was wondering though, watching that game, like, am I watching the future Vikings quarterback, Penix or McCarthy? Both possibilities. I don't know. Penix is an interesting throw too.
Yeah, it's like Phillip Rivers. It's Vince Youngish sort of thing. The like, short release,
right? You're like watching is that okay? It usually works. Not that great against Michigan, but then again, Michigan is one of the best defenses you're ever going to see in college football. I think if I'm the Vikings, I look primarily at a quarterback. That seems to be the most that's the most problematic position right now. I'd do it. Yeah. And again, that's without having all the resources that they have over in Egan. But that's what I'm first thinking.
Yeah, because I saw that. I'm like, ooh, so is that, you try to think of a similar style of maybe quarterback of like an Anthony Richardson, right?
Yeah.
That's why like Jane Daniels or something like that came to mind.
Maybe. I mean, if they can trade up like 2 spots for Daniels, but they're going to be a lot of teams wanting quarterbacks too. That's the problem. And this could be one of those dreaded quarterback run years.
Then you get a little desperate.
Yeah.
Christian Ponder, ring a bell, anybody?
Yeah, one of those kind of years. I don't know that anyone is going to be one of those like, oh, we drafted Ponder? And like in real time, you're like, I don't know if that was the greatest choice. And then you find out it really wasn't. Maybe not this year for that, but a 2011 draft style run. I could see that happening this year, maybe around pick 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's where the Vikings might need to put together a thing to go up. It kind of sucks to think that they may have to, like, those draft packages are so huge to go up like 2 spots. Trubisky, of course, is the classic example.
Well, dude, look at what the Panthers did last year.
Yeah.
And the Bears have the first round. And they're saying if the Bears want to trade the first round pick, they could get more than what the Panthers gave them last year.
Right. For like 1 spot or 2 spots. But that's the standard. So I'm reticent that the Vikings are going to trade a whole lot of stuff that they may not necessarily have to go up 2 spots to get someone who's a little better than Christian Ponder. But that might be, but what's your other option?
Right.
Well, that's why they are paid the big bucks and we get to talk about what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hey, maybe you could sign Joe Flacco in the offseason.
Why not? I mean, the Vikings do have this odd tendency to find older quarterbacks that still have a little bit of fountain of youth left in them. So, hey, maybe the Browns maybe work out something with Stefanski when Deshaun Watson gets back up and running and they can bring Flacco over for a year.
Wow.
Why not?
Wow. But I mean, I'm curious too to see will there be a trickle down effect of what CJ Stroud did with the Texans? When some teams say, hey, yeah, rookie quarterback. Let's try to emulate that. And that's where it makes it a little bit more anxious to get a Caleb Williams, or they'll spend more to move up to get a Drake May or something like that.
Or
Chicago is such in a driver's seat right now, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Or this is me, maybe a little bit of me hoping that the quarterback insanity of teams goes away, just because that's one of my biggest like random annoyances about football. But do teams go, well, CJ Stroud, a lot of people had a number 1, but a lot of people are like, yeah, maybe he's more 4 or 5. Do we need to go all the way to number 1 to get the guy? Because maybe the guy is a little further down. And so that
But
takes
CJ Stroud last year, too, a lot of people thought he would drop.
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold, he still got drafted number 2.
Right. But see, that's the counter. Is it some thought he was 1? Like you said, some thought he was maybe 8 or 9, or I can't remember where he was being projected, but it was definitely lower than 2.
You had some people saying Will Levis was going to get drafted number 2, and he went to the second round.
Yeah. Levis hasn't turned out terrible. He's not CJ Stroud thus far. I think the obvious answer is teams are going to spend more than they should to try to get one of these guys. Jaden Daniels is going to have a massive price tag on him. Penix and McCarthy, not as much, but it's going to be more than you would think.
Yep. I think McCarthy's he's going to get drafted higher than maybe he would in a normal year.
Yep. And I think Penix went down a little bit. I think that the championship game made a difference. And May and Williams, of course, are going to be right up at the top.
Right.
If you're Ryan Pace, do you go for Harrison or do you do the draft haul?
You mean polls?
Is it right? Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Ryan Pace. Gosh.
I keep going back and forth on this thing. Man. Because I feel like if you keep the pick and you get a quarterback, you got to make a coaching change. I keep going back and forth on this thing. I would love to hear from Bears fans, because I see pictures of Bears fans posting signs saying we want Fields. Is that the majority, or is that just the loud portion?
Right.
I
don't know.
I don't know either.
For what it's worth.
I mean, if I could get a bigger haul than what I did last year, that's pretty darn tempting, even just to move down a few spots.
And you might be able to get Harrison. Like if
that's the thing. Like, say you fall down to 5. I'm just throwing a number out there, and you still could potentially get a guy like Michael Penix Jr. Yeah, you're going to get next year's first rounder, and you're going to get some players too. Is it worth it?
Maybe. Or do they start getting into Oklahoma City Thunder territory and have like
Right, yeah.
62 draft picks next year or something like that?
Yep.
What was the example I was going to? Okay. Here's some data to consider. Last week, I was reading the DVOA analysis. Bears went way up, but Aaron Schatz made a point to say this is because of the Bears defense, which I think we saw a fair amount of that, as well as Jordan Love played. I mean, you could see some of that even at Lambeau.
Although Aaron Jones ran for over 100 yards against the number 1 run defense.
Also that. See, now you wish you had Aaron Jones all season long. Imagine what the Packers could have done then. Maybe a division championship. But he made a point of saying the data, at least by his formula, the DVOA formula, it did not say that this was because of Justin Fields. Fields was still subpar. So consider that as well. He's had his moments, but some of the data is still saying, what did you think seeing in person?
I felt like the Bears I almost felt like they were holding him back a little bit, to be honest with you. Like, don't lose it for us. That was the impression. I mean, they didn't seem very uber aggressive on the offensive side until a little bit later on, and I was with my buddy, and there was that drive there. I think it was when they got their last field goal or something like that, and it was in the fourth quarter, and I said, this is going to be who doesn't screw up in the last 15 minutes, because it's like you got Green Bay, this very young, inexperienced team. Are those butterflies and that pressure going to start to get to them where they start to overthink and that sort of stuff? And it did happen. That's credit to, I think, Green Bay there too. It really felt like they didn't want Justin Fields to lose the game.
Did you feel seeing Fields, because sometimes you can get this effect even a couple hundred feet away in a stadium, but I felt this too. Sometimes a certain player, they pop a certain way. Did you feel like he could have exploded, quote unquote exploded? Was you getting that vibe at all off of him, and that you could tell it was definitely the
no?
Oh.
There was even fans chanting, yelling at him or saying, Justin, we want you to throw the ball.
Oh boy, Packer fans saying,
yeah, Packer fans, yeah,
okay,
yeah. But I also think Green Bay's defensive line had a better approach than they did in the previous game. He had no room to even scramble. There was nothing out there. And if you got a quarterback that you're taking away his best thing that he can do is scramble, we all agree with that, right? And he struggles to throw, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression of Fields where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm nervous right now.
So does that, even you kind of touched on this, but with regard to what the Bears are going to do. So before going into the stadium and after watching that game, did you have your mind changed on Justin Fields' future as Bears quarterback?
No. So I don't think you can use just the one game. You know, I don't think you can use one game to justify your future. You got to look at the whole picture.
Right.
At that point.
Okay.
I do feel like, though, in the right system, Justin Fields could be a good quarterback. I fully believe that. I feel like if you get a coordinator that is willing to be a little creative and do some things, I think he can be a good quarterback. I do. If you utilize his talents. He's not going to be a pocket passer. He's not going to consistently throw for 300 yards. I feel like he can help you win games, though, within the right system.
But is that the right system for the Bears?
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
Maybe the trade makes sense then.
Ooh, boy. Yeah, it depends on, it almost depends on you're picking your coaching staff or your quarterback, right? So, yeah.
Why do I want to throw out something like we're going to have this shock thing of like Packers trade up to number 3 to get Marvin Harrison Jr.?
No, that won't happen.
I won't, but like, oh my gosh, I'm half like, oh God, what if that did happen though?
You know what I think is going to happen? We got to take a break so we can do our picks here. I think we're going to see an offseason similar to what we saw with Za'Darius and Preston and Adrian Amos.
Not a bad one.
Not that many signings. I could see one or two. Happening.
And give it a little bit of time. This is not necessarily going to be immediate.
Yep.
Give it time.
I think the success that they've had this year and with that young talent playing as high, I think you got to take advantage of that young, cheap talent right now.
Makes sense.
It pushes up the timeline a little bit. So, all right, let's take a quick break. And we got picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room, including a new weekly pick'em feature we're going to have on our website it started yesterday, but starting going forward. We'll tell you what that is coming up in just a couple minutes. All right, it's time to make some picks. Our picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room. You're looking for somewhere maybe to check out some of the games this weekend. Head on over to the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Grab yourself a Man Cave Light. They got those over there. Really quick before we make some games. So we started it yesterday, but we're going to have our own custom weekly pick'em games up at our website. Okay, so just go to sportstalk1051.com and click on that win tab, and you will see the picks and predicts logo on there. This week, it's just the playoff games. Okay, it's just the playoff games on there. So you can make your picks over there. Next week, we'll have a new slate of games. Probably be some more playoff games, but we can include maybe some hoops games, some Bucks games, or maybe some predictions like where do you think Jim Harbaugh is going to go, sort of stuff. So we're going to have some fun with this. You can go to right now our website, sportstalk1051.com, and start making your picks on over there for the postseason. All right, so that'll be fun, kind of, and then it'll keep tallies to see who's got bragging rights to see who gets the most games right going forward. So
Nice.
that should be a good one, right? Looking forward to that. Let's do some picks. We've got, let's start with the college basketball world. Marquette versus Butler, number 11. Marquette 2-2 in conference play so far. Can the Butler Bulldogs upset Marquette, or are you going to ride with Marquette there,
I'll go
Lucas?
with Marquette. I think I don't see, they're having rough spots. I don't think, the bottom is falling out on this team. I pick Marquette.
Yeah.
At home.
Yeah, it's at home, too. Marquette is favored by 11.5. Butler's 10-5, 1-3 in the conference. I think Marquette wins, and I think they cover, to be honest with you. I think they cover in this one, too. So let's go Wisconsin versus Ohio State, number 15, Wisconsin. Ohio State is actually favored. 1.5 right now. It's in Ohio. So who you picking? Matchup predictor, by the way, for ESPN Analytics, 50-50.
I'm going to go Badgers.
Okay.
Tough one, but I'll say Wisconsin pulls it off.
Ohio State so far 2-2 in conference play, 12-3 overall. And yeah, I'm going to go Wisconsin. I think it'll be a close game, though.
Yeah.
I do think it'll be a close game. But yeah, I'm going to go Wisconsin in this one. Could this be the upset one, though? You were talking about it a little bit earlier.
Maybe I think it's going to be some other team, and I don't know that Ohio State would be a dramatic upset. Maybe though, I won't be stunned if the Badgers lose, but I'm going to pick them anyway.
All right, let's go to the NBA world. Got a big one tonight. Your Timberwolves taking on the Boston Celtics, man. Boston, it's at home, 8.5-point favorites.
Another potential NBA Finals preview.
Yeah,
it's true. It's waiting to find out which big star is going to sit out this game and blows up all of our expectations for what it's going to be tonight. You know that's going to happen. It turns out Anthony Edwards is sitting. Oh, okay, never mind.
Mm-hmm.
The smart move is the Celtics, and I'm going to say Boston. I mean, I can finally start to go homer with the Timberwolves and not just be like, oh, I'll probably lose, whatever. I want him to win. I think Boston is a little better built, but presuming everybody plays tonight and the refs don't decide that they want to be the stars of the game and start fouling one team or the other, in this case, it would probably be the Timberwolves because it's in Boston. I think we could have this would be a great test game, but I think Boston wins.
I'm going to go Boston too. I don't think they cover though. I don't think they'll cover by 8.5.
Like a 6-point game?
Yeah, something
game?
like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Maybe free throws kind of make it a little bit bigger of a gap than what it actually was. You know what I mean? So, let's go with the Thunder visiting Miami and their head coach with that new big contract extension.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma, even though it's in Miami, favored by 4.5.
Yeah, I'll go with the Thunder.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with the Thunder too. I'll go with the Thunder too.
Daigneault for Coach of the Year. It's a little early, but is he in the discussion, or is it more SGA? That's the reason why the Thunder are so. I mean, there are other reasons, obviously, but.
Well, I mean, both Minnesota and OKC got something to say about that. So
funny thing is, I don't hear too much Chris Finch for Coach of the Year.
Is it because it's more known players than what OKC has besides
Maybe,
SGA?
And Mark Daigneault's not getting that much talk. He does a little bit for the Thunder. But
this is what I hate about Coach of the Years, whether it's NFL or MLB or NBA. It's always like team with the most wins. It's like it should be more than that though. Like expected wins in that too.
right. So then it should be Chris Finch right now.
Yeah.
But that's not the or Joe
Like I feel
Mazzulla.
like D'Amico Ryans is not going to win Coach of the Year, and I feel like he should for the Texans.
Probably should, yeah. I mean, but you're going to be a fair amount of C.J. Stroud, but I think a lot of it's because of D'Amico Ryans. So
yeah,
I don't know. You're going to hear more Dagnall getting credit, but the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander making the leap this year and Holmgren doing so well in his quote-unquote rookie season is going to probably impede that. Kind of like with Chris Finch. A lot of it's, well, because Rudy Gobert is doing so well and Towns is better. And, of course, Ant is going to hurt that.
Yeah. I'm doing this one just because why the heck not in a battle of two teams that have a combined wins of 8.
Woo!
Spurs at the Pistons, the 5-30 Spurs versus the 3-34 Pistons. 2 of the top 3 highest paid coaches in the league, too, going at it tonight.
2005 NBA Finals rematch.
Yes.
Because we always like to cite that series sucked. Does anybody really win this one? I'm going to say the Spurs.
I am going with the Spurs, too.
I wonder if Wemby's starting, especially after that Bucks game. I wonder if we're starting to see Victor Wembanyama reestablish himself. Like, oh, that's right. Yep. This is why we were all going nuts over him. Kind of forgot about that for a bit, and I think that's going to change.
Hudson just picked up he got it in a pack, a Victor Wembanyama rookie card.
Ooh.
So
was he jacked about that?
He didn't know who he was, so I explained a little bit. Then I told him I looked up the worth on it. Then he got a little excited. So yeah. Let's just say it's in one of his cases now.
Okay, good.
So
good.
Yeah.
But he's not LeBron yet, obviously.
He's toned down on LeBron. He's more Bucks now. So
good.
Yeah. He's he's really into football right now. So he has it in his mind. He's got to get cards of all the retired numbers now.
Whoa.
So I picked him up on eBay. I ordered, like a cheapo Don Hudson and Tony Canadeo and Ray Nitschke one. So,
wow.
So
nice.
he's going through that now. Now he wants to collect all rookies. So, yeah.
Okay.
Right. Thanks for making things expensive on Dad.
Yeah, at least he's got his history in mind.
Exactly. So, all right. That's going to do it. Make sure you get your picks in. You too, Luke.
Yep.
For the postseason on there. So, going to have some fun. Might have to do some predictions with coaches and that too. Ooh, we could do like MVP and all that too.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, we'll have a little fun with it, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wisconsin poll.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for us. DP and the Danuts, they're up next. Have yourself a good rest of your day. Let's do this again tomorrow, just past 6 a.m. We'll talk to you then.